Hey, Andy.
Oh, I'm on. Yeah, there we go. Hey, what's up?
Hey, Timmy Hawks over here.
Yeah, Timmy.
Are you going to allow us to record, or do we need to go?
Let's see, which one are you?
WGHP Fox.
Let me give you the access right there.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
We'll be taking it all in.
No, that's great.
All right. Thank you. I just want to check on that.
Yeah. Good to see you.
All right. Thanks for doing this for us. We appreciate it.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Coach. How are you?
I'm doing great. Am I early?
You are a couple minutes early. I prefer early over late, though.
Yeah, well, I got to figure out how to do it. It always takes me a few minutes.
Well, I'm just happy. I'm happy you're here. So it's good to see you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
We might hold on just one more minute. Let a couple people get on, and then we'll get rolling here. All right, let's get rolling. We'll start a little bit early here.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our first men's basketball virtual press conference for the academic year. I appreciate you joining us. I'm Andy Flutterjohn, Assistant Commissioner for Communications here at the ACC. If you have a question that you want to ask, please click on the raise hand button. You can also, if you have problems with that, you can also drop me a line in the chat box, and I'll do my best to get to as many questions as we can in each coach's session. So with that, we'll start with Boston College head coach Jim Christian. BC is play at Duke on Wednesday. Coach, again, thanks for joining us. Do you want to start with an opening statement, please?
Sure. I mean, I think, again, we're in full ACC play. Last week for us, we had a opportunity to win at NC State. Unfortunately, they made one more play than we did. And we played a really, really good Louisville team on Saturday. And for us, I thought we put in the effort needed to be successful. But to beat them, you've got to make shots. They're an exceptional defensive team. And, we can't go 8 for 33 from three, some of which are shots that we should make, especially at home. So we're trying to, keep building forward off the things that we're doing well, there is a lot of things that we are doing well. We're trying to build off that and find an opportunity to win. Obviously, getting ready to play, at Duke is not the easiest place in the world to play with a great basketball team, but our guys are excited to play.
Okay, with that, we'll open it up for questions. Again, the raise hand tool. You can also find that, I think, under the reactions button. There should be a spot there as well, please. So if you have questions, fire away.
Move on.
Let's start with David Teal from Richmond. David, go ahead. Unmute your line.
Jim, your early schedule, I think 6 of your 9 opponents are top 50 Ken Palm teams. You knew going in it was going to be a slog. Has it been as difficult as you thought it would be, and has it made your team better? That's the most important thing.
Well, I think without question, it makes you better. It gives you an idea of what you need to do. Like, what are you going to be able to get done when you play ACC competition? If you're not playing ACC level teams, then you might get a little tricked on things that you think you're going to do well. But then when the level of competition increases, it's not as easy to do those things. So we were able to play some really good teams, have good moments. Even though we didn't get as many wins and had our opportunities to win a bunch of those games, I think we did learn a lot about ourselves, and it helped us identify a little bit more as, okay, these are the things that we can do pretty well. These are the things that we definitely have to get better at. And, having had a chance to practice a little bit, I think we have improved. Unfortunately, the results haven't shown it, but our team has definitely played better.
And then the numbers also say that you are playing faster this season than in previous years. Is that what your eyes tell you, and was that intentional?
Yeah, we're not the biggest team, you know what I mean? So we got to try to find a way to get easy baskets. We always played, I thought, pretty fast. We were always usually in the upper half of tempo in our league. And I have 3 guards that can really push the ball, that all 3 really can play point guard for us. That can lead breaks, make opportunities, that can create plays. Steph Mitchell, even though, he plays sometimes the 5 for us, he can lead the break. So, it is the strength of ours when we're shooting the ball well, and that's the, that's the one piece I think that, we've been inconsistent shooting the ball. We shot the ball really well at NC State. I think we shot 46% from 3 and then 28% against Louisville. Now, obviously they have something to do with that as well, but to find that consistency for us, because we're not the best interior scoring team, is going to be something that we're going to have to correct and find.
Okay, your next question will come from Chris Clark. Chris, go ahead and unmute your line.
Gotcha. Thanks a lot, Coach. Thanks for taking the time. I was curious this year as to preparing for this Duke squad, whereas in the past they've got a Zion and they've got a Cassius, a Trey, a Vernon. No real big standouts like that. Got a bunch of, it looks like role players. How different is it prepping for this year's squad?
Well, I think, again, it's more preparing for a Duke, right? The type of pressure they put on the ball. They're going to, at home, they're going to play with extreme confidence. They move the ball extremely well. I mean, the concepts of what makes them, in and out each year, in and out, a perennial great team has not changed in personnel a little bit. But I think obviously that preparing for the things that they do really well that can hurt us, that can give them runs, is things that concern us in our preparation.
And obviously playing on the road there, how much different is it taking on a Duke squad in Cameron with no fans? It kind of seems like it would take the teeth out of any advantage they might have down there.
People play well at home for a lot of reasons. Obviously, the atmosphere for them is an advantage, but also the familiarity is an advantage, right? They're still playing in an arena they feel comfortable in, a lot of confidence in, have had unbelievable memories. Those things don't go away. And what's coming. And obviously, the added lift from the crowd would help anybody. But I'm sure they're hungry to play. They haven't played in a little bit. They've been, it's been unfortunate, sometimes, when games get canceled. So I know they'll be excited to play, and it's going to be a great game.
Thanks, Coach. Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Okay, your next question is from Chris Heidel from Herb FM. Chris, go ahead and unmute your line.
Good morning, Coach. Happy New Year to you and your organization.
Thanks. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. You have a kid from Maryland. We're from Maryland, so there's a kid called player named Tabs, number 10. He was out last year with an injury. How's he doing this year?
Doing fantastic. He's been out for 2 years. He has, when we played Villanova, our first game of the year, he hadn't played in over 600 days. And He went out and played 27 minutes. He's playing really well. He leads our team in scoring. He's just a tough kid, and it's a great story. I think I don't even know if they have the award, but if they had a national comeback player of the year, he'd have it hands down, in my opinion, because of what he's had to endure to just get out there to play and play well. Obviously, there's things like all players, you want him to do better and learn from, but his sheer determination to get back on the court, it's inspiring to everybody.
Yeah, and also I was also looking at Ross. We have another kid from Maryland, Sandy Springs, Maryland, Williams. How's he doing up there?
He's doing fine. I mean, he's developing. It's a great place for basketball. Those, the Maryland DC. We also have a DC kid named Jay Heath, who's probably our been most consistent all around player this year. So, I mean, it's been a great area for us.
Thanks, Garrett. Have a safe trip to Duke.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go back to David Teal. David?
Jim, from what you have observed within the league and nationally, and even there on your own campus, more or less optimistic than you might have been in preseason about getting a complete season in and getting to March and conference tournaments and NCAA tournament?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that, there was so much uncertainty, especially on our own campus, because of how we live here. Our players live in the dorm with all the students. So there's 8,000 people at Boston College that have to do the right thing to say, so we can play a football game, a hockey game, or a basketball game. We don't have athletic housing. We don't put our players in a special place. They eat in the cafeteria for the most part with everybody else. It's a community here. It's the BC mission. So it was uncertainty going into it, but knock on wood. I mean, we've done, I think, as well as anybody in the country. We haven't had one positive test in football or basketball. So I think our student body, our entire student body has done an amazing job at best they can at keeping this off of our campus. And our players have done an amazing job. Obviously, like everybody else, our players went home for Christmas for 4 days. So for us to come back and I was worried that, guys go home and visit family like they should, because I think it's mentally taxing to go through all the stuff that they go through to just be able to compete with uncertainty whether the game's even going to be played. So I think that for us to get through that says a lot about the effort of our guys, as everybody's putting in, all the teams throughout the country are putting in, just to be able to go out on the court and play. Because, as well as I do, there's been games canceled 70 minutes before. Our women's team had a game canceled an hour before the game. They're on the court warming up. There's a lot of mental fatigue out here amongst these players because there's just so much uncertainty every single day. We get tested, I feel like it's like 3 or 4 times a week, whatever it is, but I feel like it's every day. I feel like every day I start my day with a test here. And then there's the wait to see how it goes, and then, so it's not easy, but, knock on wood, we've done a good job. Our league's done a good job as best we can. And I'm optimistic that everything's going to happen.
How has it affected how you travel?
We travel, it hasn't really affected us. The only thing is different is there's much more room on the planes because there's so much more availability in charter planes because the airlines are in such a tough spot. So, we usually travel on a 30 seat plane. We're all kind of packed in together. And now it's like a 90 seat plane because it's actually cheaper. And it's a little bit eerie in some of the hotels. When we played at Minnesota, we were the only people in the hotel. The city was on lockdown. We were the only people in there. It was an unbelievable weird experience, and sometimes the way we eat and meet are adjusted because of what state we're in. Like in that state, Minnesota, we couldn't meet because everybody had to get their meal and go back to their room. They didn't allow us to congregate. So it's just, again, everything's on the fly, everything's adjusted, and the kids have done a good job of just, okay, man, this is how it is. Just explain it to them, and let's make the best out of it. And I give our kids credit. I give all kids credit because it's not easy. It's definitely a difficult situation, but kids love to play. So when the ball gets tipped up, it's a positive experience for everyone.
Thanks, Jim.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Jim. We're all set. Thank you. Thank you for the time today. We'll see you next week. Good luck this week.
Thank you. Happy New Year, everybody.
Thank you. Same to you.
Okay.
Okay. Next up, we have Brad Brownell from Clemson. I believe Brad is on here. Let's see.
How we doing?
Oh, there he is. Brad, welcome. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Sure.
Do you want to start off with an opening statement, please? I'd like to just open it up for questions.
Happy New Year, everybody. That's my opening statement. Good to see you.
I like that. That's good and positive.
There you go.
I will open it up for questions then. Again, if you have a question for Brad, use the raise hand tool and we will get to as many questions as we can. And your first question is from Mark Berman with the Roanoke Times. Mark, go ahead and unmute your line.
Good morning. Obviously, you guys are off to a really good start this year. Has your team exceeded your expectations in any certain areas, or are you pretty much, you knew you were going to be this good in preseason practice?
Well, I didn't know how good we were going to be honest with you. I'm certainly really pleased with our players and how they performed. As much as anything, I'm just pleased with the fact that we've been able to play all but one of our games. And, we've been able to stay COVID free. And I think that's really helped our team build some rhythm and we've had good practices, and I was optimistic about our team. I've said before, we had Nick Honor and Al and played similarly to how we're playing now when we won the World University Games in the summer of 19. And so we kind of had seen that this could work and that we liked it, and playing those two little guys and being able to keep a fresh point guard on the floor to attack, I think has been good for our team. But then you have to wait and see what it's going to be like in the, kind of in this year's college basketball with COVID and everything. And guys have just done really well. It's worked out well for us. We've played at a high level. We've tried to play a lot of players, and I'm happy that our guys are being rewarded for all their hard work, because they've, we came back in June, had a minor COVID situation then, and had to sit out for 2 weeks, couple weeks, and have stayed relatively COVID free since then. And I think it's benefited our team, but it's also, I'm just happy for our players because they've worked really hard these last several months.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next up is David Teal. David, go ahead.
Brad, you're always pretty darn good defensively, but I checked last night and Ken Palm has you second nationally defensive efficiency. You mentioned having this particular group at the World Games. Did you anticipate that you'd be quite this good defensively?
Yeah, no, and I thought we could be good, but I didn't know if we probably exceeded expectations in that regard to some degree right now. I think what's a little more remarkable about it is we really don't have a shot blocker. And so that's makes it much more challenging in this day and age to be playing that well defensively without shot blocking. I don't know that we're the second best team in the country defensively. I would doubt that, but we are good, and our guys do a good job of competing on that end. And that certainly has helped us win several games this year. So, no, I don't know if I agree with the number there and all those other things. I thought we would be good defensively. We've probably exceeded expectations in that regard. So kind of going back to Mark's question.
Yeah, and in your answer to Mark, you said you're just happy that you've been able to get in every game, I guess, except for the South Carolina one. From what you've seen within the league, nationally, are you more or less optimistic about getting to a finish line this season than perhaps you were in October?
In October, I would probably tell you I didn't know what to think. I wasn't sure how it would go. I'm relatively optimistic. I know we're going to have setbacks. I don't think anybody thought that we wouldn't. We're going to have more cancellations, postponements. That's part of it. But I also am, I'm excited for these kids to be able to compete and play. And just because I know without basketball, I think it's really tough right now. It's even more challenging for these kids. I think basketball has been an unbelievable release for our players. Starting back when our guys couldn't be together, when our guys were away from each other for 2 months and we're all kind of cooped up in their homes, they couldn't wait to get back and just see one another. And they couldn't wait to get back and just get in the gym. Some of them didn't have places to even shoot. They couldn't leave their houses, and they don't all have baskets at their house. And so just to be able to get away, get back to being together, playing the game they love, competing, I think it's done a lot for their mental health and just their overall spirit. And so I'm hopeful and optimistic that we're going to be able to finish the season. I think there's going to be challenges and there's going to be cancellations, but I'm hopeful, just like football, that we're going to get through it. And whatever it may look like, it may be different. Teams are going to play 15 games, 20 games, 23 games, whatever it may be, but I'm hopeful that we can get through it as best we can, obviously safely.
Thanks, Brad.
Okay, your next question is from Scott Kiefer. Scott, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, is this more depth on this team than you've ever had in your years at Clemson?
Yeah, I'm bad about remembering what team had what and all those kinds of things. Probably yes. You know, because we have played 11 and 12 guys in games. So the answer is probably yes. You know, I don't think that means this is my most talented team. I think my Sweet 16 team a couple of years back was probably more talented. But, you know, I think we have great depth. We can play 9, 10, sometimes 11 guys in a game. I don't think there's a major drop off. You know, Amir Sims is our elite player. I think we have a lot of other really good players. But the depth certainly has worked in our favor a good bit so far this year.
And every time you and NC State get together, it seems to be a down to the wire finish. Are you expecting a similar thing this time around?
Yeah, Kevin's got a really good team. They're very deep, you know, and you know, similar styles. We're playing more full court defense like they usually do. Kevin's always done that. He does a great job with it. Everybody talks about Leonard, and obviously they've had tremendous success doing it, but Kevin's done it a long time as well. You know, their freshmen have really been terrific for them. Obviously, they've got experienced players. Funderburk is a really, really good big guy who can play all over the floor too. Daniels, I mean, Hellam. I mean, they've got really good players. They've got great depth. You know, their young guys have really proven that they're good and can win. And some of them are in there at the end of the big game. Shaquille Moore made a huge shot against Boston College, I think it was. So yeah, it should be a great game. We're going to have to play exceptionally well to win.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we've got time for one more question, and it will come from James Henderson. James, go ahead and unmute your line.
Hey, Brad, hope you're doing well. Similar question that was just asked to you. What types of challenges does NC State present offensively for your defense?
I think they've got a lot of guys that can make plays. They make a lot of individual plays. You know, they attack you in closeouts and you know, they can score in the post a little bit. They've got big, strong athletes, Bates and Funderburk. They've got guards that can make threes. They got guys that can put it on the ground and drive you with big bodies. And there's guys coming off the bench that, I mean, the freshmen are coming off the bench and scoring 7 or 8 points a game in 16 minutes. I mean, that's 2 16-point scores if they played starter minutes, 32 minutes a game. So there's just a lot of weapons. I think it's as much as any, you know, you don't know exactly who it's going to be any night. Braxton Beverly is obviously, he snake bit us a couple times with big threes. They just have a lot of guys that are good players. Kevin gets them spaced out really well, and they're excellent in pick and roll offense. So there's just a lot of different ways they can go. They rebound the fire out of the ball. You know, most times that's always challenging as well. So, you know, there's a lot of things you got to deal with when you play them.
Thanks, Brad. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Brad, thanks as always for the time. We appreciate it.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
All right, next up, we will have Josh Pastor from Georgia Tech. He should be on here momentarily, if he isn't already. No, I don't think he is. So, yeah, we will have him on momentarily.
Andy, sorry about that, man. I lost my way on trying to get you there, Andy.
I'm here. Yeah, we see you. We got you.
I apologize.
No, you're here. That's all that matters. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. Fresh off your Packer and Durham appearance.
Yes. So
Well,
let me get a little raise my volume here so you can see me okay and hear me okay.
Yeah, we got you.
Okay.
So this is Josh Passner from Georgia Tech, in case you guys didn't know. We'll open it right up for questions. Again, if you want to ask a question, just use the raise hand tool, and we will get to as many as we can here in the next 10 minutes. And your first question is from David Teal. David, go ahead.
Josh, good morning.
Good morning, David. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, sir. Happy New Year.
Happy, healthy New Year to you too.
You were 345th last season in turnover percentage, and this year I think you're 50th. How have you become so much better with ball security on offense?
Yeah, no, David, that's a great point. We haven't been real good with ball security, and that is something that we've had to spend time on since we've gone back to contact practices. You got to remember, to start the season, we did no contact practices because we wanted to get to the games. Well, when we got to the games, but I had said, goodness gracious, we have to practice or we're going to be 0-27 for the year. And part of the thing that when we were able to do contact practices, we really focused on was ball security. And that was an issue for us last year. And for us, if we're going to play small and size down, you cannot be throwing the ball all over the place. And so we've done a nice job, David, of having high assist on made field goals. I think it's, we're up there in that. And then we've done a good job of taking care of the basketball. So I'm proud of our guys with that, because that has been a strong point of emphasis and reinforced. And for us to have a chance to be successful, especially if we're going to play small, we're going to have to be able to, take care of the ball and eliminate any silly turnovers that you could potentially have. So we've done a better job of that to this point.
And then is the uptick in Jose's shooting percentage a function of shot selection? Is he getting easier shots off your defense? What are the reasons behind it?
I think it's twofold. I think, yes, our defense we have forced a lot of turnovers, which has allowed us, or steals. We've gotten a lot of steals and has gotten us some easy baskets. But, offensively, I think just continuing to understand what's a good shot, a great shot, an average shot, a bad shot. And David, in basketball, you're in the Hall of Fame, David. You know that you covered basketball longer than I've been alive, and you still look like you're 35. So I don't say that. I say that with all due respect, but it's such a make and miss game that you know how it is. If you're making shots, everything looks good. The energy's there, and when you're not making shots, things don't look as good. So right now we're shooting the ball well, and a guy like Jose Alvarado, who was an all ACC selection last year, is shooting the ball at a high clip, and I'm proud of him. When we signed him out of high school, I had so many people tell me, Coach, why are you taking him? He's not good enough. He's a 3-star recruit. He's too small, not quick. But I tell you, the guy's just tough as nails, and he's a true warrior every time he steps on the floor.
Coach, you're very kind, but I haven't looked 35 since I was 20. Thanks, man.
You look great, David. You look great.
Okay, your next question is from Mike Barber. Mike, go ahead.
Morning, Coach. I'm curious. You've got these back-to-back on the road. What's been the challenge or the experience of traveling this season in the pandemic era?
Yeah, Mike. What I would tell you is, first of all, our next stretch of games is just, every time you play in the ACC, and I've said this many times, getting a winning is hard. Just winning one game is special. But when you can win even a game in the ACC conference, that's extra special. You never take a win in the ACC for granted, ever. The second part I would say regarding the travel, it's to the point where, and I, obviously pre-COVID, you would never even think about this, but I mean, we don't touch our food, for example. We have one server who's serving. I mean, they serve everything. We don't touch the plates or anything until the very end, until they give it to us. Having single rooms. Usually you have two people in a room. We now all have single rooms. Everyone's has their own room because you're trying to eliminate, contact on between each other. I mean, there's just where are you sitting on the plane? I mean, I would never have thought we would have a seating chart of the bus, the plane, after games, when you're done playing, you know how long it takes you to leave because you can't eat on the bus or the plane. You have to wait to the arena to get your food, to eat your food. So all those type of things. I mean, after we play Notre Dame on Wednesday, we land back. We probably get back to our facility around 1 a.m. We have to take a COVID test then. So just all those type of things that is just different because of travel.
And you mentioned Notre Dame. What do you see from Mike Bray's club, and what will be a kind of a focal point for you?
I think Coach Bray is one of the best coaches in all of college basketball. Their team is really good. I know they've had some tough ACC games. They went down to the wire versus North Carolina, went down to the wire versus Duke. They played really well against Virginia. It's just, this league is really, really hard. You can be a really good team like Notre Dame, but still not win. I mean, those type of things, that happens. And so Notre Dame, kicked our butt twice last year. We're going to need to play really well. The kid, Nate Laszewski, is having an all ACC type of year. Coach Bray's teams never beat themselves. You have to beat them. They don't turn it over. They make threes. They're fundamentally sound. We're going to have to play at a high level if we want to have a chance to win the game on Wednesday. Notre Dame's not beating themselves. You have to beat Notre Dame if you're going to beat Notre Dame.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have time for one more question, and it will come from Chris Heidel. Chris, go ahead.
Hi, Coach Josh. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Chris. Happy New Year to you.
Talking about your team so far, you guys had 2 big wins in the end of 2020. I know last year was a really bad year. Do you feel like that is going to carry you guys over to this week against Duke and Louisville?
Well, I don't know if last year was a really bad year. We finished 5th in the ACC. I mean, if that's a bad year, then I don't. Maybe you and I have different viewpoints of that. But we did finish 5th in the ACC, which is the first time Georgia Tech we had done some things in the ACC play that hadn't been done at Georgia Tech since the mid '90s. So I think you and I might disagree on what's good and bad, based on our season from last year. But the second part I would say is anytime you can beat Kentucky and North Carolina in the same month, which we did in December, that's a great month. I'll be able to tell my grandkids that we beat Carolina and Kentucky, North Carolina and Kentucky in the same month. Not too many people can say that. That's a fun fact to say. I'll be able to, God willingly, tell my grandkids that. So, look, we ended 2020 with the win. We started 2021 with the win. We got a long way to go. We just got to keep it moving forward. As I said at the beginning, you never take a win in the ACC for granted, ever.
Yeah, I know you guys had a good season. I'm just talking about the whole thing afterwards.
Oh, the whole thing, yeah. The pandemic, that was awful. I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
But let's hope we have a tournament, and let's hope next year, Chris, you and I we're back face to face having meetings, not Zoom calls.
Exactly. We'll drive carefully.
Yeah, thank you. I'm doing both. I'm multitasking.
That's good. All right.
All right, Josh, I'll let you get back to just driving. Thank you for the time today. We appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Andy. Thank you.
Okay, next up we have Jeff Capel from Pitt. Let me make sure he's here. I think he is.
Yeah, I'm here.
There he is. Hey, Jeff. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
No problem.
We'll open it right up for questions for Jeff. In case people didn't see, Pitt is going to play at Syracuse now on Wednesday. So that's a newly scheduled game in place of the Syracuse-Florida State game. So if you have a question for Jeff, use the raise hand tool and we will get to as many as we can in the next 10 minutes. And of course, the first one is going to be a tough name, so I hope I don't butcher it. George Michalowski, you're up first. Go ahead.
Jeff, first of all, Happy New Year and hope you're feeling better.
Happy New Year to you. Thank you.
So, after dealing with more COVID issues and losing a few games right after Christmas, do you have any regrets at all sending the kids home for the holidays?
No.
Okay, your next question is from Jim Hammett. Jim, go ahead.
Jeff, when did you guys, if you have, resume practice, and do you expect to have a full roster for Wednesday?
We were never on pause. The games were canceled or postponed, so to speak, whatever the term that we use in the ACC, not because of positive tests within our program. It was because of contact tracing. So even though we did not practice or play the game against Duke, we practiced the next day, or worked out, I should say. We did workouts, and we were starting to prepare for Notre Dame. And then I think it was on Thursday is when the contact tracing came in from a positive test within the athletic department. And so, again, we never shut down. We just started doing individual workouts because when we were looking at our schedule after the Notre Dame game, regardless, we were not going to play until Florida State, until Saturday the 9th. And so we really, after the Notre Dame game was canceled, you could practice, but we don't have a game. We didn't know when we had a game. And so we started doing individual stuff and doing things like that. We will not have a full roster for our game against Syracuse on Wednesday. We will be down, obviously, with Justin not being able to play. But then we'll also be down, at least two more guys and possibly one more.
Sorry, Jim Hammett, go ahead.
I just went.
Oh, I'm sorry, reading my you're wrong. Jerry DePaula, go ahead.
Hi, Jeff. Thanks for the time. I was just wondering, how difficult is it from a preparation standpoint when the schedule you're handed at the beginning of the season isn't the one that actually plays out?
It's difficult, but it's something I think that each coach in our league has anticipated. I know I did not anticipate playing the schedule as it was at the beginning of the year. I knew that there would be bumps in the road, so to speak. And, I think one of the key words to this season is that you have to be able to adapt. You have to be able to adapt and adjust, because I think from here on out, it's going to be like this. I think it's going to be influx. I don't know how many coaches in our league, I don't know how many programs went home for Christmas, but I know other students, regular students, went home for Christmas. And as you start having students come back, I know other student athletes from other sports went home for Christmas. So as you start having people get back to campus, I think you're going to see some more disruptions as we go forward.
Okay, your next question is from Donna DeToda. Donna, go ahead.
Yeah, hey Jeff, I have two quick questions. One is how that game with Syracuse came about. Was it a sort of a quick Sunday discussion? How that game sort of got on the schedule, number one, and number two is how are you guys going to compensate for the loss of Justin?
Well, how the game got scheduled, I mean, that's the ACC. To be honest with you, I didn't have much to do with it. That's the higher ups, that's the administrators, the athletic directors, and then the ACC, and then the doctors and the trainers. Really what we looked at from our end, and I'm pretty sure Syracuse did too, is would you have enough bodies to be able to play? Obviously, everything is pending on test results as we go forward, getting ready for the game. I mean, our last two games, for Duke, we were on the bus on the way to the airport. We found out we weren't going to play that. we had a little bit better idea of Notre Dame once there was a positive within the athletic department, and we looked at contact tracing, and we knew that would affect our team somewhat. And so those decisions are made by both schools. I don't think they're ever made by one program. You know, Justin's a big loss for us, period. Obviously for Syracuse with their zone, he's a guy that we feel like is very comfortable in the middle of the zone, which we, you know, think can be a point of attack, and also along the baseline. Justin also has the ability to step out and make a three. But where his biggest strength maybe has been this season is rebounding, especially offensive rebounding. And so it's a huge loss for us, but it's also a tremendous opportunity for other guys to step up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is Mike Waters. Mike, go ahead.
Jeff, you mentioned that you're definitely going to be down at least 2 other guys in addition to Justin. I have to ask you, can you tell us who they are and how
No, I
close?
can't. I'm not going to be able to tell you that.
So how many scholarship guys does that leave you with heading into Wednesday's game?
If we're down, we'll definitely be down 3. So that leaves us 10. If we're down 1 more, then, you know, we're at 9. So it just depends on, we'll definitely be down 3 at least. We have 13 scholarship guys. So you can do the math with that.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't talking about walk-ons too.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. I should have made that a point. My bad. Yeah, these are scholarship guys.
Thanks, Jeff.
No problem.
Craig Meyer, go ahead.
Hey, Jeff. How much of, I guess with the 2 games already being postponed here, I mean, how much of an expectation do you have that those games will eventually be played?
I don't know. I don't have an expectation. I don't know. I mean, really right now, Craig, to be completely honest, you're trying to focus just on one game ahead because you don't know. You know what I mean? Like, we're trying to get ready for Syracuse. You know, we find out yesterday that it's going to definitely happen. You know, I started hearing about it on Saturday, but find out definitely that it's going to happen. You know, the only thing I'm concerned about, man, is my fingers are crossed that it happens. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to kind of look ahead and see and you know, okay, well, when is this going to happen, or makeup or whatever? It's hard. I mean, it's really, really hard. I mean, one of the most brutal things was, you know, we're on the bus and we hadn't even gotten on the highway yet, fortunately. And, you know, I yell up to the bus driver or say up to the bus driver, hey, we need to go back. And all of a sudden we have 2 buses, you know, the guys that were on our bus, you know, you see them and they're starting to try to figure out what the heck is going on, you know, and then we go in and we meet and you tell them like, hey, the game's canceled. And so that was tough. They were really disappointed because we were ready. We had a couple of good practices and obviously the excitement of playing an ACC game and for us coming after a loss. And so it's just, it's really difficult. And so what we've tried to focus on is the stuff that we can control. I really don't know what we can control. Every day I'm trying to figure out, you know, who's going to be in practice. You're waiting with bated breath on test results to see who you have for that day. You know, you're waiting on these kids to fill out their teamworks thing. And so if a kid, you know, has a sore throat or a headache or is congested, there's probably a good chance he can practice. And so all those things are tough, man, just trying to navigate. And so again, you guys have heard, I'm not an expert on anything. I'm just a basketball coach. And so I'm trying to figure this thing out as we go. You know, some of the guys that know a lot, maybe they can help me or tell me, you know, how I should be doing this.
Thank you, Jeff.
No problem.
Jeff, thanks for the time today. We appreciate it.
Hey guys, have a great day. Happy New Year to everyone.
Okay, we will move right along. Next up is Wake Forest Steve Forbes. Steve, I think you're on here. If you are, just go ahead and unmute your line.
I'm here.
All right, Coach, it's great to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Just got home late last night, so not a lot has not changed since you heard from me at 9 p.m. last night. But I will tell you that you cannot win any basketball games when you turn the ball over 18 times, and then put on top of that 7 shots that were either no passes or 1 pass. That's really 25. Where you really didn't have a chance to score. 9 of those were probably unforced. And so that's a major problem. I don't care who you're playing. You're going to have a hard time winning any kind of basketball game. Got to give credit to Georgia Tech. They played make-miss, which we practiced, but we haven't had any practice time really. And so we don't play a lot of zone. And so the zone gave us a lot of problems because it's just not something we've seen. We haven't seen it because we haven't played. And so I agree with what Jeff was saying there. We're in different times, especially us. And so we've just got to try to get better every day we get a chance to have practice. Unfortunately, this week, we've got 3 games. We played last night, played Wednesday at Virginia, played Saturday at Duke. Like, I didn't know we were playing Virginia till this morning. For sure. I mean, I had a feeling we might, but didn't really get to the final say till this morning. And so we'll prepare for Virginia now and get ready to play.
Okay, Mike Barber, you're first up. Go ahead.
Yes, Steve, you say that you expect to play that game against Virginia. What have you been told about kind of their situation?
Mike, I haven't been told anything. I mean, that's just kind of what this is COVID. I don't think people share information. And so you go with what you're told. And what I was told was that we're playing. And that's really all I know. And that's honest to God truth. I don't know anything else. I have a hard time just keeping our program moving forward and worrying about Virginia.
And if you could tell me, I know you got a whole couple days here to get ready, but what is kind of your initial take on UVA?
Well, Mike, obviously it's common knowledge, they're very well coached, they're disciplined, very impressed with, I'm not great with names, but I know numbers a little bit better, but I know the Clark kid can really play. He kind of makes the whole thing go. Great finisher for his size, has the ball in his hands a lot. I think Tony probably wants him to have the ball in his hands a lot. And he can also, it's kind of crazy, but he can actually score with his back to the basket. He can take a guard down in there. And so he causes problems. The big fella Huff causes a lot of problems because he's so big and he's patient in the post. And so if you come to double team him, he's going to make the right pass, and he can also stretch the court. And so he causes you some issues that we'll have to deal with, defensively. I haven't really watched him yet. I haven't had time, and so today we'll get in the middle. We met as a staff this morning about what happened last night and talked about Virginia. We got to make some adjustments, obviously. One thing about me is I'm not hard-headed. If it's not working, then we got to fix it, and the definition of insanity is keep doing the same thing over and over, hoping it's going to change when it's not. And so I got to find the best way for our players to have a chance to win. And that's been the hard part, not having any non-conferences. I don't know until I see it, and the hard part for a coach is when you see things in practice, when you see the things you see in practice, but then they don't do it in the game, that's frustrating. So we've got to get that fixed.
Thank you.
Brett Friedlander, you're next up.
Steve, when exactly did you return to practice? And the second part of the question is, you've got a totally different roster than you did at the beginning with Ingram and DeBose out and Witt in. How do you manage to put everything together and have it ready to go on such short notice?
You got any advice?
You're the coach.
Oh.
I just second guess.
All right. Well, we start your question. We started on. We had enough guys to kind of have a practice on December 20th, and we hadn't practiced since November. We had a little practice on November 29th, after we played on the 27th. So we went on the 29th. And then, we had our COVID issues. So then December 20th, I don't think we had 10 guys, maybe 8 or 9, maybe 10. And then we went for a day, and then Syracuse game was canceled. We had the issue with Tariq and Ian going on. One of my players' dads passed away, Emmanuel Pomo. We were going through some tough times. And so I made the decision on the 21st, if the kids wanted to go home for Christmas, they could till the 26th, or they could stay and work out. It was about half and half. Half kind of went home and half hung around here and worked out. But so on the 26th, Brett, was when we had 10 guys. And then on the January 1st, we had enough to have subs for practice. And so, yeah, the team's changed. The dynamic has changed. I mean, Ian brought a lot of experience, and he brought, like you saw last night, we were reluctant to penetrate and get in the gaps against the zone, which you have to do. You have to move the ball, and you got to drive it and play off the post and drive, kick, swing, or skip. And he's good at that. And so we missed that. And Tariq led us in scoring in our first game and gave us another big body that could score. So we had to adjust, and then getting Carter's been great. He's should be playing in the Chick-fil-A or the Bojangles, some fast food tournament right now for high school, but he's playing in the ACC, and I think he's done a really good job. And I think he'll get better and better each game. He's got great attitude. Players like him. He gets along well. So we are changing. It's just hard to change. It's hard to do all these things on the run, especially when you got Virginia and Duke staring at you, and then Louisville coming at the house, and so yeah. But like I tell the players, nobody's going to feel sorry for us, and so we got to figure it out.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
We've got time for one more quick question from Connor O'Neill. Connor, go ahead.
Steve, I wanted to ask you, I know the word on Ian was that he's out indefinitely, but is there any kind of timetable where you're looking at getting him back in the next month or before the end of the season?
Yeah. Connor, I'd like to have him back tomorrow. But I don't know, Connor. And when I know, I'll update you first. You guys will be the first to know. As of right now, there's nothing new. He has come back, I thought it was really good for him and Tariq to go home and get away. And he's back. He's been really engaged. But when the doctors tell me something, that it's a little more definite as far as another round of tests or whatever they're going to do, I'll be sure to tell you. But right now, there's just nothing new on it. And we miss him. We need him.
Steve, thank you for the time today. We appreciate it. Good luck.
All right, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Okay, we will have Mike Young on from Virginia Tech momentarily. Mike, if you're on here, go ahead and unmute your line, but I don't see you just yet. So we will get him on momentarily. If you have a question for Mike, just be sure to use the raise hand tool, and we will get to as many as we can in his 10-minute block. Good morning, Coach. Happy New Year. If you can hear us.
I can hear you fine.
There we go. Good morning. How are you today?
I'm good, thanks. I hope you guys are well.
It's good to see you. We will we'll open it up right up for questions for Coach Young. Again, use the raise hand tool, and we will get to as many as we can. And your first question is, let's see, our first question is from Mike Barber. Mike, go ahead.
Morning, Mike. I'm curious just your reaction to having this weekend's game postponed and how that impacted your program.
Mike is just, it's, part of it. Days run together. We practiced here on Friday. I'm scurrying around trying to take care of a couple of things, and our athletic trainer came in and said that there might be an issue in Charlottesville. Not long after that, there was, he came back up and said that, abundance of caution, not going to play tomorrow, could reschedule Sunday or Monday. Being a holiday, that was January 1st, I think, correct me if I'm wrong. Friday was January 1st, and it was just, just some things that couldn't be ironed out. So we had to push it back. Not sure exactly when we'll make that up. We will make that up last week of February. We've got a week between games and the first week of March. But if there's ever a time, you better roll with the punches. This is it. And, will it be our last postponement? Probably not. You want to play, kids want to play, but we didn't have the opportunity. But again, we'll reschedule that, and hopefully that we can get to it the second time.
And with that flux, I don't know when you got working on your next opponent, but what do you see from Louisville? What does this opponent look like?
Well, the guard play is outstanding. Carly Jones was right here for throughout his career at Radford, and I can't say that I saw him a lot. I saw him enough to know that he was really good. But I watching them a lot here beginning Saturday after the UVA postponement. He's a great player. He's a great player. He makes all the right plays. He's unselfish. Gets the elbow and gets over top of people and scores. There's not a selfish bone in his body. He passes the ball to teammates when you double him or shrink the floor on him, which is essential. David Johnson is really good, really good. So their guard play certainly jumps out at you immediately. Their ability and their enthusiasm on the offensive glass is cause for concern. I mean, they really go at the offensive glass, and Chris's teams are always going to guard you. And I think they're limiting opponents to 38 from the field. So our first true road game against a really good team, we'll have our work cut out for us, needless to say.
Thank you.
David Teal, you're next up.
Mike, given what you have seen in the conference nationally and your own team's experiences, compared to October, are you more or less optimistic about the season as a whole and getting to a finish line and getting to Greensboro and the ACC and then eventually the NCAA tournament?
David, we're going to get there. We're going to get college basketball is going to get to March. I read a lot. I know that these next couple of weeks are concerning. I allowed my team to go home. I thought we had so many guys. Wabisa Beatty from Boston, Justin Mutch from New Jersey, Keve Aluma from the Eastern Shore of Maryland.
that had not been home since July. Just until you're blue in the face, we talk to them all the time about choices and, big gatherings of 10, 15 people, doing what college kids do. We've been fortunate. I read this morning that, a couple other colleagues have issues within their program. Is it going to be choppy? It's been choppy already, but we're still playing 85, 86, 87% of games night in, night out. I hope that continues. But to answer your question, David, I'm optimistic. I've always been a glass half full guy. I hope things work out.
Thanks, Mike.
Mark Berman, you're up next. Go ahead, sir.
Good morning, Mike. Considering what you just said about Carleek and Johnson, what's been your assessment of how your guards have done defending people this year?
Good. Thought we did a really nice job on. Thought we did a really nice job in Uncasville. Colin, David, help me. Great guard for Villanova, point guard. I can't think of his name. I thought we did a really nice job on really good guards. These two guys are a little bit different. David Johnson is comparable to Villanova's guard, sturdy, not just blow by you speed, but big and strong, big shoulders, shooting the ball very well. And he's made vast improvements in his ability to catch and shoot from the perimeter, but still does a nice job of getting fouled. I think we've done well in spurts, but Isaiah Wong, who's really, really good, scores, I think 14 the second half the other night. We've been a little choppy, and it's not game to game. It's media timeout to media timeout, just getting to proper spots and holding those gaps, which will be a big deal for us on Wednesday at Louisville.
Thank you.
Eric Johnson, go ahead, sir.
Hey, Coach, I'm just curious, with so much uncertainty and just how fluid the season is, does your approach to practice change when, a game gets postponed like this past weekend, or does it kind of stay the same just to keep your guys loose?
It's just so strange. You've had some cancellations through your career for snow and weather, things like that. But I'm literally running out of the practice facility like somebody's chasing me, trying to get a couple of things squared away. And buses are here. Buses are in the parking lot. So you've got to reshuffle the deck, if you will, and exhale. You're so locked into that next opponent, and then there's an interruption. We continued on. We practiced Saturday. We had a great practice on Saturday. It did give me an opportunity to give them a day off yesterday, Sunday, which we would not have done had we played UVA on Saturday. When they got in here and worked out on their own and got treatment and so on, but they had a break from me, and we'll go back at it today and tomorrow in preparation for the Cardinal. But I just keep it as normal and as regular as possible, and they know, guys, we know as coaches that the likelihood of this happening again is probably pretty good. So you figure it out and do what you think is best for your team, and we'll continue to do so.
Thank you, Coach.
Rick Bozich, go ahead.
I'm not answering any questions from that guy. I'm out. I'm out on that one.
Hey,
What's up,
Coach,
Rick?
how are you, sir?
Good, buddy. Hope you're well.
You too. Just everything you've dealt with. When you talk to your players, what is usually your message in terms of keeping guys? You want everybody to stay positive. How do you do that?
We finish every day with something from our athletic trainer. Typically, much the same. Watch yourselves. There's nobody here right now. Our students are gone. So, we have what is as close to a bubble as we can have. And I do think that we've been aided by this beautiful countryside here in Southwest Virginia. Rick, we know it. None of us are immune to this. None of us are doesn't discriminate. And, without naming names, I talked to friends in the league and other leagues that tell you, when that thing takes off inside that locker room, inside your practice facility, it's hard. It's hard to eradicate it. And but to this point, we've been so fortunate and lucky, and our kids have been great. I ask them, I'll go down, I'll ask a couple of them before practice today, how was your Sunday? Or how was your weekend? Oh, it was fantastic. What'd you do? I didn't do a damn thing. And it's been that way all year, and hope that continues for the Hokies.
We'll get one final question from Norm Wood. Norm, go ahead.
Hey, Mike. Joe and David and Darius have all kind of had, small moments here and there throughout the season thus far. I know you guys have had a little bit less disjointed season than some other teams. You've got some veterans on your squad too. I just wondered what you'd seen from their development, and if it's been quite what you expected, or if there's been some hiccups or what.
Probably Norm, exactly what I expected. All three of those guys are good players. All three of those guys are going to be very good players for us. The defensive end for a freshman is that's the steepest learning curve. They're all three really talented offensive players. Maddox has taken a step ahead here over the last 10 days, 2 weeks, and has worked his way into the lineup in a limited role, but a significant role as well, backing up Tyrese Radford. He will play again on Wednesday. Just a better grasp of how hard you got to play, and how sharp you've got to be in terms of your communication, and KYP, know your personnel. He's done a nice job with that. And, David has played in most every game. I don't think he played in the Villanova game. He was hurt a little bit against Miami, didn't play, and he messed something up defensively in the short time he was in there. And I had the opportunity to move Tyrese Radford down to the 4, which we're doing a little bit more of. Joe Bamasil is, an ultra talented offensive guy and really score the ball. But like the other two, strides to make defensively, keeping the ball in front of him, and playing the way that we want to play. But encouraged by each of those guys, and happy they're here.
And real quickly, you'll go ahead and get our weekly Cartier update. I assume nothing has changed with his status, or maybe there has. I don't know.
Nothing's changed. Opted out, and those conversations are ongoing, but nothing new to report.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Norm. Is that it?
Time today. We appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody. Have a nice day.
Okay, we will have about a 5-minute break or so before our next coach, Mike Bray, will be on at 11:10. So sit tight.
Okay. I'm sure I'm 11:15 technically.
Coach Bray.
Hey, good morning. How we doing?
Hey, I'm good. How are you? It's good to see you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
All right, we'll get rolling again here. If you have a question for Coach Bray, go ahead and hit the raise hand tool, and we will get to as many as we can here in the next few minutes, up until 11:20. Looks like our first question is from Hank Kurz. Hank, go ahead.
I think he's muted.
Yeah, you got to unmute yourself, Hank.
Duh. Hey, Coach, good to see you. You've been around a few minutes. What's it been like? What specific challenges of navigating this season with all the craziness going on?
You know, I think you just want to get games. You know, we played 9 games. Five of our games have been canceled. We've been fortunate that it hasn't been the virus in our program. It's been the other programs, which we certainly understand. And the law of averages, we'll probably get bit in the backside too. But we've been able to recover and play games. And I think I've almost taken the attitude, especially with the scheduling philosophy, which may not have been conducive to getting wins or building confidence with a team, to give them a great experience. And we've played great teams. We haven't beat any of them or many of them, but just that we're playing and you're living day to day. You're kind of living day to day. Like, I hope we play Georgia Tech Wednesday. We're going to prepare that way, but the rug can be pulled, as we have all learned, at any minute.
Is that focus on having a good experience somewhat different than what you normally go through? Like, is the stress less on you?
Well, I think it's stressful in that, you know, I think it's stressful because you worry about your kids' health and you worry about their frame of mind, but that we've been together in a gym, being able to work with our guys, you know, since late August. That's been the most positive thing, that we have each other. They don't associate. They didn't when the student body was on campus much. They certainly don't now, but we kind of have each other to have some interaction. And you know, I'd love to be thinking more about an NCAA tournament resume and what do we need and all that, but I don't think much about that right now. I mean, you know, I'd like to get to 13 games because that's the benchmark to at least be considered for the NCAA tournament, if and when that happens. And then look at it and go, okay, you know, God, we really need some more stuff. But the ability to get games, get as many games as possible for these kids, it is really what I think every coach in our league has kind of evolved to that. Yeah, we want, come on, man, we want to win. We want to get to Indianapolis, whatever that looks like, but get them the experience of games.
Thanks, Coach.
David Teal, you're next up.
Mike, along those lines, what was it like being you and Roy being the guinea pigs for scheduling on the fly? And since it affects both teams, I guess there's no real disadvantage to it, right?
No, I think I would hope every coach in the league, and I believe that is so, is we're in preparing for Pittsburgh and assistant AD comes in and says they're out, and we start looking on the computer and we're trying to figure out and all of a sudden one of my assistants says, hey, Carolina's open because Syracuse is down. And I text Paul Brazo and I said, we should go to Carolina, right? He goes, and his response was, would you do it? Yeah, we got to do it, right? I mean, we got to get game. Now, I didn't necessarily, after being 0-2, want to roll into Chapel Hill, you know, right? Maybe I really didn't want to do that, but I think all of that is at the bottom of the priority list now. And Roy was great because he gave his guys the day off Thursday, not thinking they were going to play, and called me and our attitude was, we got to play. We have a plane here. It was going to take us to Pittsburgh. We're going to turn it to the Southeast. And it was a great game. And a heartbreaker for us, but I thought we did some good things.
Mike, given the experiences that you've had, would you say 5 games have been postponed or canceled? As your experience, what you see around the country, knowing that athletes and students are coming back to campus after Christmas, are you more or less optimistic now than you might have been in October about getting to a finish line?
Great question, David. And I go back and forth every day. I'm thoroughly confused if we can get to the end line. I want to keep trying because I know the frame of mind of our young people. If I were to huddle them up like I did in Greensboro, and of course that was after 30 some games. So we had a lot of games in the bank, even though we didn't have a postseason. But, you know, to look them in the eye to tell them we're going to shut it down, it would be crushing to them mentally. And so that for that reason, and I feel the ACC has set up some pretty safe protocols. We're getting kind of good at this with shutting down, delaying, come back later. It's crazy, but the opportunity for these kids to compete and play some games, I think that's really important, but I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure we can make it.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
CL Brown, you're next up.
All right, Mike. I was curious with the way that the games have gone and scheduling and impromptu opponents, how has that impacted your approach to scouting reports?
Scouting is a total waste of time right now. And I've told our staff that. As a matter of fact, even in a real season, that can be so overrated. You know, it really can. And I know as I've gotten to be a more experienced coach, done less with the other team and more with our own group. But in this, it's really less of an emphasis, and we do less watching the other opponent, and we give less to our players. I just don't know if that's a very high priority right now.
And I apologize. This is kind of looking backwards question because difference between being in person and on Zoom. I didn't get to talk to you after Saturday's game, but I wanted to get your opinion on the impact of Kerwin Walton for Carolina and his 3-point shooting with the bigs that they have.
Well, that was a little bit of a difference. We thought, we could try our best to take away their bigs, which, we didn't do a great job of, but we did enough of a job, to kind of have a chance to win the game. But he hit some really timely ones. And I think he's going to be over time a difference maker for them, because of all the guys as the game went on, when he rose up, I was scared to death. I was like, he's a big time shooter. And we got, so I think for them moving forward, that's going to change them.
All right. Appreciate it, Coach.
Yep.
Mark Larson, go ahead, sir.
Hey, Coach. Going back to the games, and you said you want to get as many games as possible and you don't want to shut it down. Would you be in favor of kind of taken from what your former boss was talking about, maybe delaying the season should have been delayed? Would you be in favor of shutting down the games for, say, a few weeks for everybody to kind of regroup? Because it just seems like every week, 3, 4, 5, 6 games are getting shifted around.
I have an open mind to all of that. I mean, when we ACC coaches every Wednesday at 9 a.m. through the pandemic, we got on and talked about everything. Somebody should have recorded those, because my God, was that therapy for all of us through the summer and the fall. But anyways, that was all talked about. And, there was times we'd get off the call and everybody said, yeah, let's only play league games, Paul, and let's start in January. And if we have to pause, and how about a bubble in Greensboro? All the things you guys wrote about, we tried to do. And May Madness, I understand that, and wants to do as far as keeping it in the March window. But I have got to believe Dan Gavitt's not going to say anything about that now. There's got to be some contingency plans. Now, the one thing, and I don't know if it's still trending this way, Paul and I talked, Brazo, right before Christmas or mid-December. I said, Paul, 80% of the games are being played, 20% canceled. Isn't that a win? Like, what did we think we were going to do? If we could stay at 80% of the games being played safely, that's as good as it gets, right? So I don't know what that percent, I'd love to see where that trend is by mid-January, but it was 80-20 in mid-December. If it starts dipping to 50-50, now we got a problem. And I'm sure the NCAA and the ACC is in agreement on that.
Yeah, and I don't want to pitch you against Coach K, but are you saying then that it's okay to play in a pandemic as long as we can get to at least to that percentage?
Oh yeah, if we can keep it at 80-20, we stay the course. We have an unbelievably good testing situation that the ACC, and we're getting good at this. Like, we just shut people down, and it's sad if you have to shut somebody down when the other team's in town, like what happened. But it is what it is. So we've got protocols, and my feeling is stay the course, and let's see where we are end of January. And then I have an open mind if this thing is different or worse, or our new president says something different. Whatever you say, Coach, we're there.
Thanks, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, thank you for your time today, as always. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll see you next week.
Yep.
Okay, next up, we have Jim Larrañaga from Miami. Coach L, I believe you're on here. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
I am unmuted. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, sir. Thank you. We will get started with Coach Larrañaga. If you have questions for him, just go ahead and use the raise hand tool, and we will get started with him. Okay, your first question is from Doug Dowdy. Go ahead, Doug. You've got to unmute yourself, Doug.
Yeah.
We've been asking everybody just about the same question. Are you getting more positive about the season now or negative?
Well, I don't look at it as positive or negative. What we've been trying to do is stay safe so that we can keep playing. I don't want any of my players or coaches or any of our support staff, getting COVID and the possibility of getting very sick. I'm very concerned about my own health. I'm at that age group that is in that danger zone. So I'm trying to do everything to protect myself, my players, and as long as we can keep practicing, which we've been doing. When I say we've been practicing, I mean the guys who are healthy on my team. We haven't had issues with COVID since July 20th, when we started with my coaches and players in our practice facility back on July 20th. We haven't had a single positive case. Guys have done a great job of hibernating, quarantining, just social distancing, wearing their masks, washing their hands. The guys have done great. Our problem has been, we've been so injury prone. We've most days only have 6 or 7 guys for practice. Chris Likes has been out for a month. Earl Timberlake was out for over a month. Rodney Miller's now out for the season. Sam Wardenberg's out for the season. It's very, very hard to practice and prepare correctly and even just keep your guys in shape when so many guys are injured and you're afraid of someone else getting hurt. But as far as COVID is concerned, I'm very, very pleased with how we've been able to handle it. And we in the month of December, we only left the state one time, and that was to go to Virginia Tech and right back. So I don't look at it as positive or negative. I look at it as, hey, we've got to just keep focusing on staying safe. And as long as we stay safe and are able to keep playing games, I'm pleased with that.
Mark Larson, you're next up.
Hey, Coach Larinaga, do you think it's a good idea that the college basketball kind of presses on through everything that's going on with games being changed at the last second and the whole schedule kind of being out of whack? Is this a good idea? Or should we hit the pause button on everything? What do you think?
Yeah. For most of my life, I didn't follow the political scene. But this past year has really brought to my attention the importance of leadership and the people who are in those leadership roles, whether it be in government or being in the NCAA or being in the ACC or being in our own program. My own thought is, we've got to function. We can't just quarantine and shut everything down all the time. Had we been able to prevent the virus from spreading back when it first started, had we all listened to the experts, Dr. Fauci was telling us, wear masks, wash your hands, socially distant. If everybody had done that, I don't think we'd be in the situation we're in now. But we are in an entirely different situation. It's now January of 2021. The hospitals are overloaded. The deaths are rising at an incredibly high rate. But I think college basketball, just like college football, we got through the college football season, I think, successfully. And I think we can get through the college basketball season successfully. But there are dangers. And we just got to be very, very responsible, very, very careful. And I think my team is doing a good job. My coaching staff and support staff are doing a good job of staying safe. And as long as we can progress, I'm glad to do that. I'm glad that my players are getting a chance to compete.
You also said you're concerned about your health. Did you ever consider opting out of the season?
I would say I'm like a team player. I feel like I'm one of the players. I want to practice. I want to play games, and I want to stay safe. I think if I do all of those things and don't get COVID, I feel like that's a win. If I get COVID, I'm probably going to look back on it and say, I probably should have opted out. But right now, I love being around my players. I love interacting with them and trying to educate them and keep reminding them how important it is to follow the protocols, to listen to the experts. I never went to a political figure to ask him if I should have an EKG or anything. I asked the experts. I talked to my cardiologist, or I talk to my family doctor when it comes to medical issues. I don't talk to my senator or congressman.
Thanks, Jim. Be well.
Got time for one more question, and it will go to CL Brown. CL, go ahead.
All right, Jim, I may have been listening too hard there, but when you mentioned Chris Likes missed a month, were you saying that like he's coming back for this game against Carolina, or?
Oh, no.
Okay.
He's not. I mean, he's hurt. He told me it was the worst ankle sprain he's ever had. He's been in a boot. He hasn't gotten on the court to even go through dummy offense or half court. He hasn't played basketball in over a month now.
Wow. And with you guys, these 4 losses have all been within 5 points, the last 2 1 possession. How do you keep that from becoming something mental with the team, especially everything else going on that they don't expect bad things to happen when it's a tight game?
Yeah, it's a shame. We won our first really tight game when we beat Purdue at home. Our game at Virginia Tech was a heck of an ending, and we had a really good look at a 3 for the win. And then against Clemson, it was I thought a very well played game. We had the ball with 20 seconds to go. I told my players afterwards, I made a huge mistake not calling a timeout. We had already talked about what we were going to do at the previous timeout. So I didn't feel like I had to, but looking back, I should have reminded them of what we were going to do and see if we could have gotten a better execution. So that's my fault.
Thanks, Coach.
There you go. Coach L, thank you for the time. Good luck this week.
Thank you.
All right, we will move right along. Next up is North Carolina's Roy Williams. I believe he's on the line here. Coach, if you are, just go ahead and unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
I can, sir. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. Let's open it right up for questions. If you have a question for Coach Williams, use the raise hand tool and we will get to as many as we can here in the next 10 minutes. First up is Ross Martin. Ross, go ahead, sir.
Hey, Coach, I was wondering what you think makes Kerwin Walton a great shooter.
Great form. No, there's no great shooter that doesn't have great technique. So I think that his is unusual. He has a little bit of a side spin on the ball that is not as usual. It's not the normal great looking shot that you see, except as he releases it, it's a perfect follow through. And, you know, Jamal Wilkes, Robert McAdoo, Terry Brown, the best 3-point shooter I ever coached at Kansas. They all had different techniques, but you've got to finish with a great follow through and your hands straight forward toward the rim. The shooting's finger split in the middle of the target and those kind of things. But how you get to that point, it's sort of like Jim Furyk's golf swing. There's different ways to get to that point. But if you don't have a solid technique that keeps you away from mistakes, then you better shoot 1 million of them. And I think that Kerwin has shot 1 million of them, and he'll shoot another 1 million in the next week probably. And he does have the great follow through. So you've got to perfect your own way of shooting.
Did you expect him to be contributing this much and starting for you when you recruited him at this point in the season, this early?
Well, I knew that last year we were really shorthanded on the number of people that could put the ball in the basket. So that's what we talked to Kerwin about and told him if he got there and he did a job defensively and kept trying to get better defensively, that it would more than likely work out that he would get a lot of playing time. And that's exactly the way it's worked out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Rick Bozich. Rick, go ahead.
Hey, Roy. Mike Bray talked a little bit a few minutes ago about the scenario over the weekend where you guys ended up playing Notre Dame on the fly. Just wanted to get your take on how the whole thing went down and how do you think it worked out?
Well, you know, the bottom line is it worked out better for us than it did for Michael because we were fortunate enough to win. But I think we needed to play games. We're in a situation now in our country where cases are going up dramatically. I'm concerned each and every morning when I get up to see if we're going to have the opponent that we thought we were going to have. And I think Mike had the same ideas that we need to play games and need to get some games under our belt and need to do as many things as we can. I talked to Clint Gwaltney, who's our assistant AD here. He had talked to the ACC. I said, let me visit with my staff and I want to call Mike. And so I visited my staff about 2 or 3 minutes and called Mike. And when he answered the phone, he said, if you're willing to play, I'm willing to play. And I said, well, Mike, I am, but let's just talk through a couple of things. Do you see any advantage or disadvantage for either one of us? And I said, because, you know, you got to play at home and I had to play on the road, but on this game, you'll be playing on the road. I'll be playing at home. So we both had one road and one home in the last 2 games. I don't really see any advantage or disadvantage. It was, we had given our team the day off. So we weren't going to practice at all. I don't think that he was planning on having a big practice, and needless to say, he didn't probably didn't put in a full scouting report on North Carolina in the next half hour kind of thing. So for me, it was no advantage, no disadvantage either way. And he agreed, and we thought we should go ahead and try to play. And again, the game itself went on without any hitches or anything. And he said they had a plane that was going to take them to Pittsburgh. They could reroute it to North Carolina. And I told him we had somebody here that knew where the light switches are so they could get the lights on. And it worked out that we were able to play the game without any problems. But of course, I feel better about it than Mike did because we had one more point.
David Teal, you are next up.
Roy, along those lines, and given all the pivots and adjustments that everybody has to make and probably will continue to make, are you more or less comfortable today with the season and all the processes involved than you were when you started?
You know, David, I haven't been comfortable a single moment with everything we're doing, but I think it's the right thing to do as long as we keep our eyes and ears open and use our brain. I'm more concerned about these next 3 weeks than any time this season because of the gatherings of Christmas and New Year's and likelihood of more of these cases continuing to come. So I'm scared to death, but I wake up every morning thinking, okay, what's going to happen to college basketball today? And so I've more or less just had focus of, okay, today looks like today's going to be all right. Let's prepare and do everything we can, and then get up the next day and try to make a determination what that day is going to be like.
The NCAA today finalized the plans and announced them for Indianapolis and centralizing the tournament. A good move in your mind?
Probably so. I think, you know, the more you can limit travel, contact with more people, if you play at 8 different sites or 16, I don't know how many sites we have early on, you have a greater margin of coming into contact with more people than you do if you have it all in the same city. And Indianapolis has the hotel space, the gymnasium space, everything I think that we need. So that doesn't bother me. And in fact, I think it's a good plan.
Thank you.
Thanks, David.
Mark Larson, you are next up, sir.
Hi, Coach Williams. Given all that you were just saying about the next few weeks and your concern and all the games being switched around at the last second and it seemingly everything in chaos and it's probably going to get worse, would you be in favor of putting everything on a pause for a few weeks? Or, you know, like Coach K was saying last month, maybe we shouldn't even play till February. Where do you come out on that?
Oh, you know, again, it changes, Mark, every day, I think, because we get different information every day. I would have liked for us to have waited until the spring and just instead of having March Madness, somebody else said it may have been Rick or Mike, I don't remember who, have May Madness. I think that would have given us more time to get closer to a vaccine. And but the bottom line is we did not do that. I don't have a great plan right now. I try to lean on the medical people, the scientists, and for them to tell us what's best. I'm scared to death about the spike that we see all around the country right now. And some people just think they're invincible. And some people still think that it's a hoax. And I'm not anywhere near to that camp, to say the least, but it is something that I don't know. Yesterday and today, I may have different. Tomorrow, I may have different feelings. But scared to death is the way that I'm approaching this entire season.
Well, you think it's a good idea to keep pressing on?
Well, I do, and it's. But who knows? I mean, guys, I looked at one list of a score sheet. 32 games were listed as postponed or canceled on that one scroll that I had off my phone. So I think it's going to get worse. And but that's just my opinion. No scientist, no medical person has given me reason to agree with me or disagree with me.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Got time for one more question. Ken Cross, go ahead, sir.
Coach, going to the hardwood for a minute, did you see Day'Ron Sharp maybe build toward the type of game he had Saturday?
He's been phenomenal in our practices, guys, and even early on in the fall when we were practicing him, we had Tyler Zeller and Tyler Hansbrough and Theo and Cam and Kobe. That was the 5 guys on the blue team one day, and it was really good, and they were all tremendously impressed with Day'Ron. And I think that, getting him to this level is just a testament of how hard he's continued to work. I think that we'd like for him to be able to work even harder on a more consistent basis at a higher level, but he was dominating, to say the least, in the game on Saturday. After Durham got in foul trouble, there was just not the number of big guys at Notre Dame, and I'm not trying to critique or say anything about Mike's team, but we felt like we had tremendous advantage there, and he just plays so hard. He makes things happen and normally makes things happen in a good sense for North Carolina.
Roy,
thanks, Coach.
Today, we appreciate it.
I missed, was I supposed to answer something there?
No. I'm sorry. I was just saying thank you for your time today. We appreciate you joining us.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day. Stay healthy.
Thank you. We'll see you next week.
Okay.
Next up, we have Louisville's Chris Mack. I believe he's on the line here. If you are, just unmute yourself, Coach.
I'm here.
There we go. All right. Chris Mack from Louisville. If you have a question for him, go ahead and drop it in or actually find the raise hand tool, and we will do as many as we can here in the next few minutes. First question is going to come from Mike Barber. Mike, go ahead, sir.
Morning, Coach. I just wanted to get your take on the impact that Carlik has had for you guys and how good he's been so far this season.
Yeah, it's not every day, Mike, that you can have a guy get, 15, 9, and 6 and not feel like he played very well. He did a great job on the defensive end. I thought he was in tune to the game plan. He hasn't shot the ball as well as we know he's capable of. I still think he's getting over, having had to sat out for, an extended period of time. But he does a lot for our team, and, he's very creative. He plays at his own pace, and he generates a lot of offense for our team, whether he's scoring or whether he's setting a guy up.
Virginia Tech for stretches, certainly of the Villanova game, for a lot of the Clemson game, other moments, they've looked very good defensively. What do you see from them on that end of the floor?
Yeah, I see a team that's very connected, a team that plays very tight off the ball, understands help side extremely well, has really good awareness. They have mobile big guys that are athletic, that can move their feet, that fight in the post. And then they have guards that have a toughness about them, an ability to guard the ball one-on-one. And I think that's what gave Villanova, difficulty, is they didn't have the ability outside of, maybe one guy getting, being able to get in the lane a little bit. They really struggled getting in the lane on V-Tech. And their defense on the ball was a big part of that.
Thank you.
Tim Sullivan, you're next up, sir. Go ahead.
Thanks. Chris, within the last hour or so, the NCAA announced that it will be conducting the entire tournament in Central Indiana. Wonder if you agree with that decision and how you see it unfolding.
Yeah, I mean, powers that be, I guess, know best. I really don't care if they play the tournament in Saturn, on Saturn, or in Indianapolis. Hopefully we're a part of it, and we do our part to get there, and wherever they put it, they put it.
You think Saturn has the facilities?
They might. They might. I've never been there, so I'm not really sure.
Thanks.
Mark Berman, you are next up, sir. Go ahead.
Good morning. Just to follow up on Carlik, we knew in this area what kind of an impact Carlik had for Radford, but I mean, has he exceeded your expectations there? Did you know he would make this successful a jump from the Big South to the ACC and the folks you played this year?
Yeah, we had a pretty good feeling, Mark, that he was going to be who he's been since he's been here. I have a really good friend in Carlik's league, and Pat Kelsey, and Pat is a very very good evaluator of talent. He obviously coached against him. And so it didn't take long when Carlik got here over the summer to realize the type of player that he is, the impact he was going to have for our team. And I know people try to make comparisons on maybe what grad transfers do around the country from year to year, but every case is different. It really depends on, the type of player, the need you have for him. And so coming in, we expected a whole lot. We saw in early June and July who he was going to be for our team.
And how about from the leadership standpoint? Because obviously you weren't just bringing in a really good player, but a veteran player.
Well, he's a point guard that has the ball in his hands a lot, and he's done a really good job of orchestrating and running. And he's very, very high IQ player, so he understands the game of basketball. He can do better in the leadership department. Our job isn't to showcase him; it's to teach him and to grow him as a player and to coach him. And I think that he takes to coaching really, really well, which has allowed him to improve. But I think he can continue to get better in that area. Again, you're asking a guy that's never been around some of these guys 4 or 5 months ago to be their leader. And as he's growing into the role and growing relationships on the team, I think he'll continue to get better and better in that regard.
Shannon Russell, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. How you doing?
Good. Hey, Shannon.
Last week, you said you were hopeful that Charles Minlin would be back this week. Now that we are in this week, have your thoughts changed, and what does his progression back look like from injury?
Yeah, so Charles will start doing things 5-on-0, non-contact or non-competitive related. He'll be in shooting. We run through our actions. We're doing defensive drills that don't involve actually competing. He'll be in that. And then, we're hopeful that he'll be fine through all that. And then we'll just keep progressing. He won't play against Virginia Tech. And then, games beyond that, we'll sort of get a feel as he adjusts to practice.
Okay, next up is David Teal. David, go ahead, sir.
Chris, having navigated the season now for a while, are you more comfortable than you were back in October that this is indeed doable and that college basketball can get to a finish line?
Yeah, I always felt like it was doable. I guess that's the optimistic side in me. I think you're always going to have people that have opinions, especially in 2021, on what's right or wrong. I think the other sports have shown that you can get through the season. You're not going to get through it unscathed. You're not going to get through it without cancellations. But I've always been comfortable. The players have always wanted to play. Those that don't, because there have been some kids around the country that have opted out, they're going to get support both by their coaches and by their teammates. And, with that in mind, the majority of players, they want to play. This is what they've worked really, really hard to put themselves in position to do.
Thank you.
Michael McCammon, it's hard to say apparently. Go ahead, sir.
That's all right. Coach Michael McCammon here, obviously. You mentioned a week ago that, kind of, I guess, jokingly that your offense wasn't really one-dimensional, that you were wanting to get other guys involved. We saw at Boston College, guys like Quinn and Dre and Jalen help, I guess, end these runs by the Eagles. Are you pleased with the progression that you're starting to see from some of these other guys in key moments like that?
Well, we haven't had a whole lot of opportunities to, continue to, show that we're making strides in that area. We've only had a couple games. And so it's something that we're continually working on in practice. We want to play with greater pace. We want to get others involved. We need less standing around. Boston College was unique. They played zone, matchup zone virtually the entire game. But I thought, by and large, we did what we wanted to do and what we had talked about going into the game. But be more interested to see as we play a lot of the teams that go man-to-man, our ability to move the ball and move ourselves in the course of offense.
Next question is from Gary Graves. Gary, go ahead, sir.
Hey, good morning, Coach. I guess when you look back on the chemistry of this team, what were your initial expectations? And especially after, you lost Malik and then Charles, and what were your projections in terms of how long it would take this team to come together, and how much of that do you attribute now to Carlik's influence in involving everybody?
Yeah, I try never to minimize my expectations or worry about, what outsiders' expectations are. We expect to win our first game and play to our identity. The season is a long season. It's a process. You're continually growing or trying to. But I had high expectations from our group from the very beginning. And, I think some of the guys just needed an opportunity. We still have a long, long, long way to go. We're far from a finished product. We have a heck of a week coming up this week, VTech and Georgia Tech. So, we're going to learn a lot about ourselves. But regardless of the results, the process of improvement and getting young guys to continue to get better in our system is really, really important.
Chris, thank you for the time today. We appreciate it. Good luck this week.
Thanks, guys.
Next up, we will have Mike Krzyzewski from Duke. Let's see if he's on the line. Coach, if you're on the line, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'm muted.
Great. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. If you have a question for Coach, just go ahead and raise your hand. We'll do as many as we can here in the next 10 minutes. Brendan Marks, you are up first, sir.
Hey, Coach, Happy New Year. I just wanted to follow up and check in on how you personally were doing. I know that the school sent out an alert that you had had a close contact with a positive case. How are you doing? And overall, how is the team handling, obviously, the late cancellation with the Florida State game?
Yeah, well, it's, I think each team's going to has had to navigate their own landscape, and ours has been a unique one. What our team, I found out about being quarantined as I was getting on the bus to go down to Florida State. And a member of my family was tested positive, and both my wife and I then were put in quarantine. The team, we talked about it, and I wanted, we all decided that they should go down. They were all good. They got down there, had their last team meeting on Friday night, and about 20 minutes after the meeting, they were informed by the Florida State officials that there were 3 positives. So that was a very difficult thing for them to go through. And along with the pit, in other words, they prepared for both these games, and they were not allowed to play. And I'll be quarantined for the rest of the week. And I've had Zooms yesterday with my staff to go over Boston College. Wrote out our practice plan, had a meeting with my staff this morning. I'll be able to follow practice on Zoom as soon as I get off of this call. We start in about 15 minutes, and then I'll have another meeting with my staff, and I'll FaceTime with each of the players individually tonight, and then make, do the best we can. But I'm in good health. I just got tested about 20 minutes ago. My wife was also put in quarantine, and we both have tested negative. So hopefully that can keep going.
Thank you.
Ethan Joyce, you are up next, sir. Go ahead.
Hey, Mike, I know you've got a game before the away game on Saturday, but I'm just generally curious how you go about prepping for a team that's been through what Wade's been through. And, maybe that's just a greater question about trying to prep on the fly for basketball in 2021 right now.
I really have not watched Wake at all. And I've been in touch with Steve quite a bit during the month of December because of all the stuff that was happening in their program, and have reached out to him. He's reached out to me, and look, they're going through a different situation. In other words, everything it's different for everybody, and we just have to, each program has to do the very best that they can, and I know they're trying to do that, and I applaud him, for doing that. He's had a lot of stuff that's happened during the month of December to his kids and his family. I think his son was positive, so that's what happened for me. One of my family members was tested positive, and so that brings out even a deeper feeling.
Steve Wiseman, you're up, sir. Go ahead.
Thanks, Andy. Coach, good to see you. Glad you're feeling well. You said you're going to quarantine the rest of the week. Does that mean, obviously, you won't coach Boston College? Is there a chance you can coach the Wake Forest game, or how does that go?
Yeah, well, there are guidelines that the ACC put out as far as testing and quarantine and all that, but they're not, they're not rules. And obviously, with the testing, every school does it different, or schools do it differently. We do it every day. Not most people don't do it every day. For the quarantine, the guideline says you might be able to stop it at 7 days, but you have to go along with what your Duke Health and your local health officials say. And right now they're saying 10 days. So I will not coach the Boston College game. Obviously, I'm involved, as much as I can be. And the noon start of the Wake Forest game is right at the end of the quarantine, and I'll have to get guidance. I hope that I'll be able to do that. And but I'll look. We're going to follow whatever the health officials say, and I have confidence in my team and my coaching staff. But I'd certainly like to be back by that game if they allow it.
So John's going to coach Wednesday night.
Yeah.
APC.
Well, everyone's gonna coach,
Right.
but John's gonna be the guy that you can that'll do the Zoom after the game. All right.
Thank you.
Mark Larson, go ahead, sir.
Hey, Coach. So I'm assuming nothing has changed your initial stance that the season should have been delayed until at least February.
You know what? That stance was in the fall. Okay. When I spoke in December, I did not. I said we should make an assessment of what's going on, and I didn't call for the end of the season or anything like that. And obviously, you should, in this type of situation, each program and the sport as a whole should continuously make assessments as to what's best. And basically, that's what programs are doing. And so, anyway, yeah.
Well, given the fact that things are so crazy now and games are being switched around at the last second, and everybody's missing games, what's the answer right now, do you think? What's your assessment?
Well, we have to do what the people who run this say we're supposed to do. And so, again, but doing it with what your medical people tell you as your own institution tells you to do. So you just keep going, and figure out at the end how you judge how teams get into the tournament. And because it's gonna, I just saw that the net came out. I don't know how, whatever. That's not going to be the way to do it. I mean, I don't think. But hopefully people get every program gets a good number of games in where they can be judged. And then the NCAA, the committee will have to decide what is that judgment? How do you do that? Because it's so very difficult. I mean, for all these teams, I mean, I can't imagine like teams that have not practiced for 3 weeks and then play a game. How difficult that must be. We have not been put in that situation. But then if that team, didn't do well, but then does well when they do practice, that's it's a different thing. And I don't know how you judge all that, but they'll figure out how to do it, and then we'll accept the results of what they say and act accordingly.
Thanks, Coach.
Got time for one more quick question from Hank Kurz of the AP. Hank, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, I'm imagining that your pretty extensive coaching playbook didn't have a pandemic section in it. What kind of challenges has it presented to come up with your own protocols, your own way of doing things, to kind of throw out maybe some of the practice schedules and things like that you lay out? And is there someone that you've sought advice from on how to do this safely?
The main people that we seek advice from are our medical team, and just to do everything that they say. Like, I was getting ready to get on the bus to go to Tallahassee, and they said, the chance of you having it is minimal, but there's a chance that you works, that you could have it, and I listened to, Cameron Wolf and Ned Amendola, and that's the way we've done it. Even, as far as adjusting practice, one of the reasons we did not play our last non-conference game was so that we could put a buffer so that when they went home, we could have a quarantine period where then when we played Pitt on the 29th, we would know for sure that we could play that game. And it didn't turn out because of a problem that Jeff's program had. And so I'm just trying to follow whatever. Now, there is no template for this. And, I'm glad that so many teams have been able to get in games. And I feel bad for our guys that, especially the last two, that right at the last minute, it wasn't there. It's nobody's fault. I don't blame Pitt or Florida State or whatever. We have no control over it, but we do have control over them, how we react to it. We're just trying to react in a very positive way.
Thank you.
All right.
Mike, thank you for your time today. We appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Next up, we have Jim Boeheim from Syracuse. Coach, I think you're on the line here. If so, go ahead and unmute your line, please.
Yeah, anybody hear me here?
We can hear you, sir. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
We will get right into it. First question is from George Michalowski. George, go ahead, sir.
Jim, what was it like having, a couple weeks off between games, and how do you prepare your guys to avoid coming out rusty against Pitt in your first game back?
Well, it's no fun not playing. We had guys out. We had some guys that could have individual workouts. So it's obviously a very difficult time, and the players have done the best they can do. They've worked very hard with their individual stuff, and we've had a couple practices with guys back, but it's not ideal. It is what it is, and we just have to do the best we can right now.
And what have you seen, or what do you know about this year's Pitt team and how they play?
Well, Pittsburgh is, their guards are up and down really fast, quick, attacking, multiple guys that can attack the basket. And, they went into Northwestern and won. And Northwestern's been, really good in terms of the Big Ten, which is obviously a very, very difficult conference. So, but in these times, we're trying to get ourselves ready to play, and I'm sure Pittsburgh's doing the same thing. They've had some issues, and you just have to hope you can get your team as ready to play as you can get them. It's there's nothing easy about any of this for the players. But again, our players have been very enthusiastic. They're happy to be playing and practicing, and there's no alternative. So they're making the best of it.
Mike Waters, you're up, sir. Go ahead.
Jim, you were able to get back to practice yesterday. I was wondering if you're going to be able to have a full roster for Wednesday's game.
We'll have a full roster.
And if I could follow up, was Barama able to join in with the full practice yesterday? And then if you could just kind of update us on how he's doing.
He's worked hard individually. He's had a couple practices, and obviously his conditioning is a long ways away, but he has participated in full practices.
Thank you, Coach.
Okay, Donna DeTota, you are up next, ma'am. Go ahead.
Love being called ma'am, thank you. Jim, I'm curious about, you said guys have had individual workouts. Like, what is the extent of these workouts, and how much have they been able to do over the last couple of weeks?
Well, when you're on contract, based on contact tracing, you can then work out individually only on the court for, whatever length of time you really want to, and in the weight room. So all of our guys who were in, I can't think of the terminology now, but who were negative, but were in tracing, were able to work out individually with a coach. And that's helpful, certainly helpful for conditioning. But, obviously it's not the same thing as having basketball practices. And, we missed I don't even want to count the number. We missed 25 to 30 practices since the start of the basketball season, which is an incredible number. I'm sure it's right up there probably with the most missed practices in the country. It's just what it is. You have to do the best you can. And the players have been great. They really have. They've done a tremendous job.
Okay.
Antoine Staley, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, Coach, I just wanted, you were supposed to play Florida State on Wednesday, and then obviously you're playing in Pitt now. Just talk about just scheduling on the fly and how that's been working for you this season.
Well, it's just what you do. You have to do it. We played one game early in the year with one practice day and missed 14. So that was very difficult, and we struggled. Now, we've missed practice days, but we've had 3 or 4 practice days. By the time we get to Wednesday, we'll have had 4. So I think this is better. It's abrupt change for us, but for them too. So it equals out. I think when you play somebody that's had games and practices consistently, and say over a 10-day period, they played games and practice, and you haven't, that's probably a really big disadvantage. But you do the best you can in those situations. Again, our players have had to adjust to this already a couple times, and I would just say that they've come through it as well as I could hope. Our practices have been good, but there's nothing like playing games. You can have really good practices, and then a game's a different kind of opportunity, and games can be a struggle when you haven't played them. But a lot of teams are in the same situation, same position, and I think my hope is we get as many games as we possibly can, and hopefully we'll be able to do that and get to the end of the year playing enough games that everybody's showing what they can do. That's the hope.
Mark Larson, you're up, sir.
Hey, Coach. Given the fact that you've missed 30 practices and at least 3 games, 4 or 5 games, whatever it is, and it's only going to get worse probably in the next few weeks, should they have waited till spring, or what's the answer right now? Do you just keep pressing through this?
Absolutely not. If you would have had to wait till June, maybe July. So that would be no season. So we played games. Some teams have played 8, 10 games already. I'm very hopeful we'll get in 20 games still, maybe more. I don't think it will get worse. I think it can get a lot better. But I don't know. I don't know that. I'm hopeful for that, but I know not playing at all, you wouldn't be able to start playing until June or July, and that's obviously that would not work at all. So I think we've done what we needed to do, and I think at one time, I'm not sure the exact numbers, but I think last week we had played about 70 to 75% of the games scheduled have been played. So hopefully we can improve on that as we get through the rest of the year. But the option to not play I don't think was ever a good option.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you for the time today. We appreciate it. Good luck.
Okay. Thank you.
Next up, we have Leonard Hamilton from Florida State. Coach, I think you're on the line. If so, if you could unmute yourself, that would be great. Looks like we got him here. Coach, can you hear us?
I can hear you just fine.
All right. Hey, there he is. All right. If you have a question for Coach Hamilton, please just raise your hand and we will get to as many as we can here in the next 10 minutes. Antoine Staley, you are up first, sir.
Coach, just talk about when did you find out about the Duke game being canceled, and just your initial thoughts about just what's been going on recently and when you expect to get back on the court.
I actually, Coach K called me after practice and let me know what the circumstances were. My thoughts are you just got to maintain flexibility during these times. It's a moving target, and nothing's really exact, and you've got to be flexible and patient and understanding these are different types of times that we're operating in, and you just got to be fluid and able to go with the flow. Try to keep your kids as safe as possible, and try to keep everybody in their own little unique bubble, and move on from there, and just try to make the decisions with the information that you have at that particular time. I mean, I was disappointed, but I definitely understood, and this preparing ourselves for what comes next.
Chris Nee, you are up next, sir. Go ahead.
Hey, Leonard, I was wondering during this time with the pause, for lack of a better term, how much is the team able to do? Are guys able to individually work out, or is everybody kind of shut down for the foreseeable future?
Well, initially, you know, they have standard protocols that are specific but general to cover just about every situation. And then as you gain more information, you know, and more specific information, then that dictates exactly what you're doing and when you're doing it. So we're kind of in that phase right now, and I'm sure I know a little bit more toward the end of the day as to what our plans really will be.
Ryan Kelly, you're next up, sir.
Hey, Coach. First and foremost, hope you're doing well. Hope everybody's doing as well as possible. But wanted to ask, you know, early January, this is usually the time it's full go. Just what's it been like for the last 48 hours to know that you can't do any of that for the first time, I'd imagine, in a very long time in a January?
Well, this has been a challenging year right from the beginning, not only in January. I mean, from the summer to the fall, it's been challenging for everybody. You know, and I'm sure that we all are facing it. You know, you're trying to be careful. Your conditioning level is a lot different. And for us, you know, we are very fluid because we have guys stepping into different roles. We have 4 new players we're trying to indoctrinate into what we're doing. We have a talented freshman point guard who's moving from a power forward to a point guard with all the dynamics of learning how to be fluid in that situation. So, you know, we feel like we got a whole lot on our plate, and from standpoint of dealing with the changes, we just going with the flow. I'm not trying to overanalyze anything. I'm trying to be focused and worry about that which I can control. If we miss something and we're behind in something, we just try to be patient and keep working ourselves through it. This is a different year for all of us, and we just want to try to get through the year without having anything, any negative stuff happen, and hopefully we're doing that.
Rick Bozich, you are up next, sir.
Yeah, hi, Leonard. Coach Larinaga was on earlier and mentioned, you know, that he had concerns about the virus for himself being in the category as an older coach. Just wondering, you know, how much concern do you have for yourself in terms of traveling and being out there and being exposed to it?
Well, there's no doubt that it should concern everybody. And this virus doesn't have any, it's not I mean, it's been documented that all the people in our age group have are challenged more by it. But I've gotten into my bubble, my routine, and I feel good about what I'm doing, and so far so good. But this is a challenge for any and everybody, because you can stay in your routine as much as you want to. It's invisible. You don't know where it is, how it's coming. You just got to hope that your routine keeps you consistent, you know, with being as healthy as possible. As far as I'm concerned, there's no question that I'm concerned, but, you know, it's not something that you just got to, you can't just worry about it, but to say I'm not concerned only motivates, I mean, my concern only motivates me to continue to keep trying to be as focused and diligent as possible to see to it that we can avoid any negative issues.
Dom Tibbetts, you are up next.
Hey, Coach, you know, with just the current situation you guys are in right now, is there a lesson that, you know, you hope your guys take away from the adversity they feel like, and it seems like they have to keep facing each and every day?
We have consistently talked about this from the beginning, from the time that we found out that we were not going to play in the ACC tournament. We try to operate in a preventive posture and giving our kids all the information we possibly can give them, so that when we do have these moments that we're able to deal with them a lot better. We try not to wait until, you know, the issue comes up. We talk about these things. So I feel pretty confident that our guys will handle this in a matured way. That's the impression I get. But it's just about every day that I can, I'd say 75, 80% of the time, we're bringing up articles and teaching points and making them aware of the good, the bad, and the indifferent, and the ugly of what's going on as it relates to it, in hopes that we're prepared mentally and emotionally to handle any of the adversities that we're dealing with.
David Teal, you're up next.
Coach, the NCAA confirmed today that the tournament will be centralized in the Indianapolis area. Does that strike you as a good idea?
Dan, I'm going to trust the powers that be, that they've done their homework. They've been as thorough as possible, trying to analyze what is the best way to put on the tournament. Obviously, as coaches in the ACC, we all had our opinions as to how we need to deal with this year, but obviously no one's listening to us. So I feel like how I feel about it, what my personal feelings is, it doesn't really matter. I would have been happier to start the season in January, play only conference games, and then move the tournament in relations to when we thought it was best to play it, and for 1 year include all the teams in the NCAA, because you don't know what's going to happen during this period. Obviously, we recommended it. wasn't a good idea. So now I'm just going to have to rely that, accept the fact that there are so many different minds going on that they have done the very best they can in terms of evaluating the situation, and that is the best for us during the tournament. That's what I think is appropriate. So I really don't have any thoughts. We just need to try to win as many games as possible to make sure that we are in that number of teams that can participate in the NCAA tournament and be as healthy as possible at that time.
Go take that phone call, Coach.
No, I got it.
Well, you can take it now, Coach. I think we're all set. Thank you for your time today. We'll see you next week.
Okay.
Okay, next up, we have Virginia's Tony Bennett, Coach, if you're on the line, just go ahead and unmute your line.
Okay.
Let's see here. Let me fiddle with the technology here.
Camera, or see if I can. Got me?
I got you. Yeah.
Mute your computer.
There we go. Okay. Wow. Look at the professional setup. Bacher is treating you right today.
Tell you what, since I missed last time, we had to do it right. So.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Just for you.
As your reward, your first question will come from Mike Barber. Mike, go ahead, sir.
Oh, wow. Quite the reward.
What an
Tony.
introduction.
I just wanted to ask you in terms of, the postponement on Saturday, has the team been able to practice, to meet? What's kind of been the status of the program right now?
Yeah, we had to get some further testing and get results before we could proceed, and then practice yesterday for the first time. And we have some contact tracing issues, but we'll deal with those. We knew that coming in, how it was going to be, so we'll make the most of it. But we did have a practice yesterday with a limited group, and so that's kind of where we're at and preparing for the game Wednesday evening.
And in one of the post games, you kind of lifted up your ankle and showed me the chip tape on you. I'm curious, was that the technology that alerted you guys to the contact tracing? Is that how you know who's kind of in that mix?
Yeah, for sure. That the Connexon chips are being used, and there isn't uniformity around the conference, which is challenging. Some, we need to get that. It's such a. It's just interesting because some are using it more than others, and I wish we could be uniform, but those are decisions we got to make. And again, yep, that has something to do with it. And then also you always are dealing with the contact tracer, and again, just trying to be as smart and sound as you can. And then there's situations you can't avoid, whether it's games or practices or huddles, but that was used as part of the equation for sure.
Thank you.
Gene Wong, you are up next, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hey, Tony. Pardon me if this sounds like a kind of an ignorant question, but with the contact tracing and a member of your program having contracted the virus, how is it feasible for you guys to know you're going to play on Wednesday if there's been contact with other players and members of the staff in the program?
Yeah, that's why we didn't. We postponed playing against Virginia Tech until we tested some more and made sure it wasn't in. The contact tracing, there was a positive, and then I don't even know. I should have probably talked to how deep I can go. What I can say matters, and it doesn't matter to a certain extent. But bottom line is, a staff member was contact traced, or was a positive test, and from that there was some contact tracing. With the contact tracer, with the Connexon chips, certain people were then quarantined that were contact traced, and then we tested after those who weren't, and then waited, and then practiced with those who all remained negative, and we'll continue to test, and those who are contact trace or quarantine will stay in that. So that is the plan. You're always at the whim of, okay, what if something else pops up? And then you have to adjust from that standpoint. But we're very conservative here, and we're trying to make the right decisions. And obviously, always, you hear every coach say it, and I hope they mean it, in the best interest of everybody being healthy and safe. And then, you also have that tension of you're trying to have a team and a staff to work and get ready. And so this is our second, pause of certain guys. So we'll make the most of it, but that's kind of how it played out, Gene. And again, I'm just really hopeful that obviously everybody's okay and that there's no more cases that pop up, because that sets you back a little bit.
What would you say your level of confidence, though, is to be able to play on Wednesday against Wake?
I'm a basketball coach. I'm hopeful. So I don't know. I'm hopeful.
Okay, thank you.
Bennett, sorry, go ahead.
I don't know. I wish I could answer it. Ask Jeff White. He knows everything. He'll tell you. So.
Coach, do you have an idea in terms of roster strength, or how many guys you'll have available for the game, or will you be at full strength Wednesday?
As of right now, we'll have enough. I mean, we'll have enough to play, and we miss a few guys. It's more staffing and some players, and but if everything stays the way it is, we'll be good to go. Not at full strength, of course, but in a spot where, you know, if you can get games, you've got to try to play them, and you want to be as ready as you can, and you know, by being smart and safe, but then trying to be ready to go with opportunities that are in front of you.
Hank Kurz, you're up, sir. Go ahead.
Hey, Tony, what's your frustration level with having had two pauses or two situations? And, you know, even if everybody does everything the right way, this can still come bite you.
Yeah, that's why we always, you know, you've heard me say it before. You guys have covered me. You got to hold things with open hands, right? You can't control everything. And when you're in a position when you can't control, when you're trying to do things right or certain stuff happen, it does make you step back, and then you just learn from it. And I think your attitude is really important and how you look at it. And, you know, I wrote this at the bottom of my practice plan today. Consider it pure joy when you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance, character, and hope. It's a Bible verse. Again, not trying to evangelize anything. It's just, to me, it was like, okay, when you face challenges, and that's wherever you're at, you need to think, okay, how can we use this setback or certain guys that are, however, not there to grow, to be stronger for hopefully the long run. It always is that way. So that's the mindset, Hank. And yeah, frustration, sure, that's human nature. There are so many things always in perspective that are way more severe. So this is just, all right, here's where we're at, and we go with it. And again, I'm not trying to make it anything more than just what it is, and you step through it. So that's the part. And, you know, you hear coaches always talking about COVID fatigue, or you hear that across it. And yeah, sure, that stuff's there because you want to be able to have a normal deal, but it's not normal. So you step into it the right way, and that's sort of the attitude. And I think that answered your question.
Coach Bray said earlier that while he still wants to win games with all the craziness and schedule moving around and all that stuff, that he might even be more focused on making sure the players have a good experience. Does the one-loss record become, I don't know, somewhat secondary with all this stuff going on, and, you know, people having different number of games and all that stuff?
I mean, my initial reaction to that question is no way. It's enjoyable when you win, but I understand what Coach Bray is saying. But no, you want your team to be as ready as you can, whatever you got to do, and that's the hard part, the fun part, the challenging part is competing to win. And it wasn't fun to get beat by San Francisco, nor get, you know, hammered by Gonzaga. But again, there's certain challenges that come with it. But no, we want to, you know, with the older guys, we want to be as good as we can. But of course, there's always that. To me, whether it's COVID-based, nothing, it's always about, you know, how can you build into these young men? How can we grow as people and then as a team? But we chose to compete. We chose to be part of this profession. The players chose to play. And you want to try to be as good as you can and go after the brass ring, so to speak. And then, again, hold it with open hands when situations aren't under your control like they should be. So, but it's absolutely about welfare and all that. But you got to go, and you got to try to be as good as you can and compete to win, of course, as Coach Bray is doing, and all the coaches.
Thanks, Tony.
Got time for one more question, and it will go to Jeff White.
Hey, Tony, Cody has not played for several games. Is there anything you can share about his status?
Right now, we're undergoing some medical tests that will determine more about him. So I just, it's just, you know, again, patience is going to be required for him, and just trying to get to the bottom of some medical issues, seeing what's going on, non-COVID related. You know, obviously, best of our knowledges and all that, but that's kind of where that's at right now. And again, that's one more guy down. So I'm always that's the stuff, you know, circling back to Coach Bray, when a guy can't play, or there's an injury, or someone's out, that's where you feel it in your guts towards your young men, because it's a lot. They want to play, and when they can't play, or certain things happen. Oh, I struggle when guys want playing time and you can't give them playing time. Those are real things. But then when all of a sudden someone has either an injury, or you're trying to get to the bottom of stuff and there's uncertainty, that's the stuff where that's hard. So we're just kind of waiting and seeing with him for Cody, and we'll hopefully get some more information as we get some more more results back and things like that.
Tony, thank you for the time today. We appreciate it. We'll see you next week.
See ya.
Okay, we'll move along, and our final coach of the day is Kevin Keats from NC State. Kevin, if you could, I see you're on. If you could just take yourself off mute, and then we will get started.
Yeah, thanks everybody for being patient. I know everybody was so much looking forward to me being the last guy, and I'm glad that you could do that. Excited about my team. I think we've been playing really good basketball. When you look at the fact that we've been able to get off to a good 2-0 start in this league says a lot. Obviously, every team in this league is very competitive, and I feel like this year there's a possibility.
We'll make sure we.
Oops, hold on just a second. There we go.
All right.
Sorry about that.
Do I need to start over or am I good?
No, just keep going. You're fine.
Yeah, I feel like in this league that, on any given night, you can obviously beat anybody, but certainly you can lose anybody when obviously there's no home court advantage. When you look at the way we played, I think we've got some, our veteran guys are playing really good basketball, and then I've been able to add in really a couple freshmen that I thought have stood out for us so far, one being Shaquille Moore and the other being Cam Hayes, and both of those guys are playing, really good basketball. But once again, guys, we're fortunate and excited just to have the opportunity to play. We don't take it for granted. So I'll take questions.
First up is Jonas Pope. Jonas, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, hope all is well. I just wanted to ask you, you said after the game last week that Manny would get evaluated. What's his status for the game against Clemson tomorrow?
He's going to be, Jonas, he'll be a game time decision. We've been very careful with him in the last few days. We took off the day after the game, and then we did individual workouts. We've got him in some workouts without having a lot of contact right now. And so I'm going to evaluate him pretty much after we go through our shoot around tomorrow at Clemson. And hopefully he plays. We're a very different team with him on the floor because he's starting to score offensively. But, a lot of the things, a lot of the easy baskets, a lot of baskets around the rim, he's either blocking those guys or blocking those shots or altering those shots. And so it changes who we are a lot with him not on the floor. So hopefully we'll see where he's at. His MRI and x-rays were both negative, but he's extremely sore, more of a hyperextension of his knee probably.
Your next question is from Brett Friedlander. Go ahead, Brett.
Hey, Kevin. Hope you're doing well today. Hey, was Shaq Moore somebody that was on your radar right from the start, or is he somebody that you kind of noticed, you and your staff noticed while you were recruiting Josh Hall?
Oh, no. We've recruited Shaq Moore for a long time. I've always, Brett, felt like he was probably the most underrated guard in the state and the country. And we knew exactly what we were getting from him, just tough, hard-nosed. I've always described him as probably could be the best on-the-ball defender in our league after a couple of years. Give our staff a lot of credit. He came in with not the reputation as a guy who can make outside shots, and we put a lot of work into him, and Shaq's put a lot of work in getting into the gym, becoming a better shooter from the outside. But, guys miss on rankings all the time. I made a living with some guys who probably should have been a top 75 guy. And unfortunately, because fortunately Shaq wasn't, highly ranked, but we knew what type of player we were getting.
What does it say about him that with all those upperclassmen on the floor that not only he wanted to take that shot, but he made that shot at the end to beat BC?
Well, he's tough. And to be honest with you, Brett, I don't even know that he knew he took the shot when he took the shot, meaning that 24 seconds in the game, most people would have gotten tight. We were down one. We needed a big basket. And, he was the guy to step up and made the shot. He's another guy that, we've been able to dip into a prep school and get a guy who's ready to play right away. If you look back, I know he seems like he's been here for 10 years, but if you look back 3 years ago from now, that was Braxton Beverly. Him coming out of Hargrave Military Academy and coming in as a freshman, starting beside Markel Johnston. Shaquille Moore and Cam Hayes, in my opinion, are both starters on this team, but I want to make sure they get a chance to see the flow of the game and then have a chance to come in and play.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
Corey Smith, you are up next, sir.
Hey, Kevin, I know you don't put much stock in the net rankings, but they did come out for the first time this morning. Your team is at number 38. And one of the big reasons for that, obviously, is because of the fact that you took that St. Louis game on. How much did you think about those types of things when you took that game, and how much does it kind of pay off when you see yourself inside the top 40?
Corey, looks like you're trying to start something for all of the people that said I shouldn't have went on the road and played at St. Louis. No, we knew that St. Louis was going to be a quality team, especially on their home floor. Also, obviously, they're going to be picked and may win the Atlantic 10, which is obviously doing really well this year. We're glad that we played the game. If we don't play that game, we're probably not sitting here right now 2-0 in our conference. When we got 2 games that were, really Power 5 games canceled, and Michigan and UConn, we had to find the best opponent that we could find at the time and go play them, and it was St. Louis. And I'm very grateful. I think you hate to learn a lot about your team in a loss. You would much rather do it in a win, but we learned so much about our team in that loss. And then if you look at the Carolina game, it was very similar to that. We got a big in the first, probably 7 at halftime. We couldn't maintain and hold on at the St. Louis game, probably because of depth and coming off of COVID, but we were able to finish the game against Carolina. So I think that game, and so excited that we played that game.
And building off of that, the Clemson game tomorrow night, Clemson comes in at number 15. That's, the biggest test so far in terms of ACC competition. How big is that game for you guys to continue building that resume?
Well, it's big because it's our third ACC opponent, and we have a chance with some success to be 3-0. And it's been a long time, since NC State was 3-0, and obviously Clemson's a very good basketball team. Sims is having a tremendous year. When you look at those guys on tape, they believe in each other. They play for one another. They're coming together as a unit, and it'll be a really, really tough challenge to play those guys on their home floor, but we're excited about our opportunity.
Thanks, Kevin.
James Henderson, you are next up, sir.
Hey, Kevin, hope you're doing well. You talked about in the Carolina game how important it was slowing down Garrison Brooks. Is that a similar mindset with Sims in this game with Clemson? And do you kind of feel like are they similar players for you to evaluate?
Well, they're similar, but they're much different. Sims this doesn't take away from Garrison Brooks, because Garrison Brooks is really good, and he's been great against NC State. But when you look at Sims, what makes him so tough is his ability to step behind the 3-point line. He's a pick and pop 5 in their system. Both of those guys in their own right are 2 of the best post guys that we have in our league. But Sims is a different challenge. All along we knew going into the Carolina game, Garrison Brooks has dominated us inside, but he's done it in a different way. Also, he's been tremendous on the offensive glass. It's really hurt us. Sims is a little different because he does it in all different ways. He can pick and pop. He can drive. They sometimes put him to the elbow when they go to their Princeton offense type of when they run a couple sets out of the Princeton. He's one of those guys that does a little bit of everything for their team. And certainly in order for us to have a successful game, we've got to slow him down. You're never going to, stop or contain a guy like that. You just don't want him to have a great night and then get everybody else involved.
And just to follow up, I know you didn't have DJ in the Carolina game. Does that give you a different look for Clemson, having him available as well?
I hope so. That's providing that we have DJ and Manny. If we can, it seems like right now we could be trading both of those guys off at times. But certainly anytime you get a guy who's a senior who's played in this league for a couple of years, for him to come back off of, what not playing since December 3rd, and to play the way he played against Boston College, which we needed, it says a lot about DJ.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
David Teal, go ahead, sir.
Kevin, you mentioned losing the Michigan and Connecticut games. Given your experiences thus far and what you've witnessed in the league and around the country, are you more or less optimistic than you might have been in October about college basketball getting to the finish line?
David, that's $1 million question. And I know everybody's been asked that. I don't know what's going to happen. Unfortunate for our country and, around the world, the virus, it seems like it's taken off a little bit more and it's taken over a little bit more. I wish we had extra time. And what I mean by that is, am I one of those guys that feel like that we should pause right now? I'm not at that point right now, but I do think that we have more time if we had more time to get more games in because they're going to be cancellations. I like that our guys and every other team is together. If we sent all of our kids out separately and we wasn't playing basketball, I think it would affect them more than it is now. We're getting tested at a high level. We're getting tested at least 3 times a week. And, we're all together in what we consider a bubble. Not a perfect bubble, but we're doing it right now without other students on campus, other than a few sports teams. But if we had time, if we could figure out, if we knew that the tournament was going to be in May, all of these games that could be canceled, we could figure out how to play them. Everybody talks about football, and you look at our football team, we were able to play, I think, 11, maybe 12 games. But we also had 2 or 3 weeks bought in, bye weeks that we could make up a game if it happens. When you look at basketball, anytime there's a cancellation in a game, it's hard to go find another opportunity to play that game. If we had 2 months or another month and a half, I don't think it would be as big of a deal because now we could reschedule. And I wish they could look at that. I wish they could consider doing that.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Jonas Pope, go ahead, sir.
Coach Bennett, before he touched on this a little bit, but I think all the ACC schools players are wearing the tracers to make sure they're 6 feet apart and staying social distance. How's that kind of working out for you guys? And kind of talk me through the process. Do you do this for practice and games and everything?
Yeah, we use them. We think it's important. Contact tracing is one of the biggest reasons why a lot of these games are not happening. And I think it's important that, I'm glad, for NC State that we're wearing them because obviously our safety of our kids and our staff is the main thing. And so if somebody does happen to be positive because of a test, we can now go back and look at the data and determine, if you were around that person for 15 minutes during that day or how many minutes you were around them. And then we make the determination of whether we need to pause as a team or we're able to just to sit that individual out or a couple guys. And so I'm excited because without that, it would be a lot of guesswork. I know before we had it, we were trying to figure out, when we had a positive, we would have to go back and look at game tape or practice tape and say, it was so-and-so around him 6 feet for so many minutes. And, we had trainers using stopwatches, and that's not the ideal way to figure this out. And so I'm glad that we have that system in place.
Have you guys been wearing them all season, like since the start of practice?
We have worn them the first game, the next game that we played after St. Louis. We did not have them for St. Louis. We got them in, and by the time we got them charged and up and ready to go, we've been wearing them since then.
Okay, we got one more question, and it is from Chris Clark. Chris, go ahead, sir.
Coach, thanks for taking the time. The NCAA is coming out with everybody going to be in Indiana playing the tournament, getting a little bit ahead. And obviously, I'm counting on NC State to be there. But I wanted to know what you thought about getting everybody together like that. Good idea, bad idea? How do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a really good idea. I'm glad that they're talking about how to make the tournament work right now. And to me, that's always a positive thing. Because, this conversation could be coming towards the middle of February. It seems to me that the NCAA is preparing for a tournament and they're preparing for a 68 team tournament to happen in one place. You know, if those conversations wasn't going on, I would be a little concerned that they may not be a tournament or they may not be as many teams getting in the tournament. So I think they're doing a tremendous job of preparing for the end result. A lot of times we talk about what's happening during the season, but we don't prepare for the end. And in this situation, I think they're doing a great job with that.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Kevin, thank you again for the time today. Good luck tomorrow.
All right. Thanks, guys. Everybody enjoy themselves.
All right, that is a wrap on this call. If anybody needs a recording later on, it will be at the ACC.com/podcasts, or you can ask me for it and I can send it to you. Thanks again for joining today, and we'll see everybody next week.